Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana Live. You found us wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, whatever it is you are listening to us on. Hello. It is Sunday, January 12th, 2025, 2 p.m. Eastern. So you know what that means.
It means we are live on youtube.com/@PoisonRanaPod. Hello, YouTube. Hello, everyone. Go Bills.
Go Bills. Go sports. Go whatever it is you're doing. Yes, it's Sunday. Football is in the playoffs. So we imagine most of you are listening to this maybe a little bit on delay. Maybe you're listening and it's Monday. Hello, happy Monday. It's almost halfway through January. Almost already. So have anyone else messed up by putting 2024 on work documents or
every day
important things? Because I've done that quite a few times already.
Every
I think I did that for our show last week or on Tuesday. I think I put 2024 and then I was like, it's too late. It's already out there. So yeah,
happy
2025. Hopefully it's going well for everyone. New Year's resolutions, whatever they are. Hopefully they're going well for you. But yes, we're going to chat about some wrestling today, as we always do. So where are my frogs at? Drop a frog if you are listening. Maybe you're listening on, like I said, on delay the next day or something. Drop a frog anyways. Join the Poisonrana Facebook group. Like the page. Join the group. I saw some people joined it just the other week when we plugged it. So I think we should plug it again because we share lots of things, including when we go live, and there's a chat where people are going off about wrestling all the time. So the conversations never end. So give us a follow on Facebook and all the socials and join the Facebook group because a lot of us are always talking about wrestling and everything. So love the community out there of our Poison pals out there in the universe. Yes, appreciate you. We're going to talk about some wrestling today. First of all, I got a shout out and sending all the love to anyone in California, LA, man. Watching the news this week has been a little horrifying. So hopefully anyone out there listening, please be safe. And watching on the news is just very, very scary. Seeing all this stuff going on, it looks like it's something to come out of Hollywood in a movie, but it's totally
it really
real life.
Doesn't look real, does it? Like some
no, it's very scary,
crazy. So hope everyone is okay, of course.
Except Mel Gibson, he can kind of fuck off a little bit. You know, I love me some Braveheart and Lethal Weapon, but Mel Gibson needs to shut the fuck up.
What's he done this time?
I don't know. I mean, he can shut the fuck up for things he said years ago, but just the way he's going off about things. I'm like, dude, people are like dying, losing their houses, and he's just making it all about other things. But yeah, I hope people are okay. It looks very, very scary. Obviously, we pay attention because it's like, oh, it's celebrities, this and that, but there's a lot of just regular day people who live out there as well, and everything, and it's not looking good. It's looking like California and certain parts are never going to be the same again, and all the love too, because I could not imagine this if let's pretend we're roommates again, Davie, and you go, hey, there's a fire, your whole apartment, your whole building, your whole house is burning down. You got 5 minutes to leave. Grab everything you can in 5 minutes. I don't know what the hell I'd grab. I don't know what the hell makes it into the must keep category and run. So I'm seeing all these very, very sad stories of people like grabbing like your documents, your passports, your photos of stuff that cannot be replaced. And it's breaking my heart.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like probably laptop, passport, and just anything personal.
Your favorite shirt?
Anything, that I sentimental value rather than financial value, I guess.
Yeah. So all the love to anyone in LA and that surrounding area, because geez, and I don't think it's going to be fixed in right away either. So damn, sending the love. So we're here in Canada, in Toronto, and then it's like there's like snow and like all the other stuff. We're like, man, if we could just send some of this snow over there, it would really help. But crazy times. End of the world.
Yeah, it is scary. Just look after each other, be sensible, be safe, you know?
Maybe like it's crazy because WWE was just in LA with like the big week, and then like they leave the night of, stuff starts to go crazy. Like the next day when it really started to go nuts with all this fire. So maybe it was La Flame, Travis Scott, and his blunt that he lit up there causing this whole thing. I'm joking, of course, but there are people saying that there's actual arsonists on top of like all these fires, and like there's videos coming out. I know some celebrities are posting things like, hey, I caught this guy starting fires with blowtorches to add to the fires already, which is just insanity. So welcome to 2025, everybody. Hopefully
not a great start.
Yeah but anyways, we'll chat about wrestling. We'll get things off your mind here for the positives here. But welcome to the show. We are Braden and Davie, Poisonrana. Like I said, give us a follow if you haven't already, because we do this every Sunday. We go live every Tuesday after NXT over on Post Wrestling. And it seemed like it was a big week for WWE, for NXT. I mean, for us, The Rock showing up on NXT definitely, I think, brought a lot of people and eyes and everything to that. So we'll chat about some ratings as well today, because that seemed to go up for WWE with Monday night.
Absolutely. But first, maybe a little bit of housekeeping. We did drop last week on Sunday, part 1 of our Best Match Ever 2024 on this very feed. This was going through matches 10 through to 6 as voted by you and by us. Some really fantastic matches we talked about there. You can find that on this feed, as well as a few other free shows we dropped this week. We had a brand new episode of What Up, Doe, where John Cena and B. Detroit were talking all about that Raw Netflix debut, as well as everything else going on in wrestling and pop culture. And we also dropped a new episode of Eagles Don't Hunt Flies with Martin Bushby, Dickie Bird, and Brandon from New Jersey. And they were talking all about the Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega lights out match right in the early days of AEW.
Yes, those are some free shows there. Lots and lots of free shows for your entertainment. Love Cino and B chatting about not only Raw on Netflix, but Squid Games on Netflix. So if you're into the Squid Games and everything, that's definitely up your alley, and tons of other fun stuff, as well as the Eagles lads talking all about Jon Moxley and when he was good back in 2019. I'm joking, sort of. But lots of free stuff, including Shot in the Dark. See No Evil, 15 minutes or less, fills you in on all the wrestling that you may or may not watch and gives you little tidbits and facts and results, including Women of Wrestling, including Ring of Honor, including Impact and MLW, if that's a real thing. No matter what it is, he talks about it in 15 minutes or less. So lots and lots of shows. Give us a follow on Poisonrana. But like Davie said, we do have a Patreon. What keeps the lights going here, and we do lots and lots of shows. We did our Best Match Ever Part 2, which was a whole lot of fun, going back and looking at 2024 and all the best wrestling and moments, and lots of honorable mentions. So if you want to nerd out with us, definitely check out that show. It is worth the $5 alone, but that gets you a whole month's access to everything else that we've done in the back catalog of wrestling and movie reviews. But we have a What's Next coming out this week. We're going to be recording. We're going to be looking at some old NXT, because even though NXT Vault on Netflix may not have 2014 NXT, Davie knew what was coming and got a hard drive and started saving some NXT shows. Therefore, saving the show Was Next in return.
Yeah, keeping this between us and you guys as we publish this worldwide to everyone to hear. But yes, if you ever want to watch any of the episodes we are talking about, that goes for our Was Next show, where we're going through currently 2014 NXT, and our Champ Is Here show, where we're often looking at promos from Raw and that kind of stuff. Hit us up, and your boy might be able to help you out a little bit. So
yes,
the network may be gone, but these shows do exist in the ether, in the cloud. So we will help you out. I know our WASN expert, Chris Price, is very grateful, because we've got a whole lot of NXT he can still enjoy. And as I mentioned, we're recording an episode of The Champ Is Here this week. We're going to be linking up with the What Up Boys, B. Detroit and See No Evil, to talk about John Cena's 5th reign as world champion. And there's, a lot of exposition that takes place on Raw, and the Raw vault currently is quite lacking. So for the time being, we at least have you covered for that. And as the months go on, I'm trying my best to source Raw and stuff from other places, but for the time being, if you're interested, some of you I know just like listening to the review, you kind of use your memory or just let us inform you. But if you do want to watch along in our little kind of book club we got going on, just hit us up.
Yes, absolutely. So this is the Champ is Here episode 5.
Yes,
that will take place this week, and Cino and B will join us, and we're talking about Cena's 5th reign, which, gun to my head, I could probably not tell you what that was, but I was watching at the time. But is it Edge he takes it from? Big Show?
It's kind of Edge and Cena back and forth for like 5 of these shows. But it's WrestleMania 25. it's the Edge and Big Show match.
Right. The big attitude adjustment. That's what I remember from that
one.
All right, interesting. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. We've been going through the history of John Cena and his title wins and everything, and it's been a lot of fun. So I know these two will have a lot to talk about. I'm sure they'll want to discuss some of the album, as we always do with people on these shows. So going to be a great show this week over on patreon.com/Poisonrana. $5 to become a friend of the show.
We're also heading towards Rumble season, so we're wanting to review a classic Rumble. I've had the poll up for a few days on our Poisonrana Facebook group. If you haven't already, I know Facebook isn't quite as popular as it used to be, but I'm sure a lot of you still have this account, and it is a fun place for our community to hang out, and especially putting your input on polls of what you'd like to hear us review. And we have 5 Rumbles up there for you to vote from. We've got the first ever Royal Rumble pay-per-view event. There was that kind of secret dark Royal Rumble, I believe, but no. We've got Royal Rumble 88. With the Hacksaw Jim Duggan win. We've got Rick Rude versus Ricky Steamboat, and the Glamour Girls versus the Jumping Bomb Angels. You can vote on that one. We have Royal Rumble 1992, which is where the WWF Championship is put on the line in the Royal Rumble match, and also the Mountie versus Roddy Piper for the IC Championship, and Legion of Doom versus Natural Disasters for the WWF Tag Team Championship. We have Royal Rumble 98 with Shawn Michaels taking on The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. This is the beginning of, Shawn losing his smile from the back injury.
Right.
Steve Austin's second Rumble win, and The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title. Royal Rumble 02, which was Triple H's triumphant return. Chris Jericho versus The Rock for the Undisputed Championship, and Ric Flair versus Vince McMahon in a street fight. And
that sounds
Royal
great.
Rumble 15, the 10-year anniversary. This is The Rock coming back to endorse Roman Reigns. I thought that had some significance with everything going on currently. A fantastic triple threat match between Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. And the Usos versus The Miz and Mizdow for the Tag Team Championship. You can get your votes in. We'll be revealing these very soon, as we'll be recording at the end of the month. I can say right now it's between 1998 and 2002.
I was going to say, I joke on the show. I try not to vote until I hear stuff that I don't want to talk about. And as much as I want to watch the 3-way between Cena, Seth, and Brock, which is great, which I'm sure we'll get to maybe on the Champ is Here, I'm going to vote in my own tadpole here. I'm voting for the Royal Rumble 2002, baby. That's what I'm voting for. You got my vote, Davie.
Yeah, I voted for 98. I'm between 98 and 2002. I think they're the highest quality shows, probably. 98 is always a fun time to go back to, I find, just seeing what ridiculous characters show up in the Rumble. But yeah, they're the two I'm between. Not much love for 92 so far, which I'm surprised, because a lot of people often are like, oh, that's our favorite one. So
yeah, that one comes to mind, like the match itself. That's Ric Flair, right? Like that's a good Rumble match for sure. I think of the first one in 88 is in Hamilton, right? I think at Cops Coliseum, if I'm not mistaken. So some good picks there. Either way, we will be chatting about a Rumble. And if you are listening in the Toronto area, shout out the GTA. we will be doing a Royal Rumble watch party. Yes, you have asked and we have answered, and we will be doing it at Gabby's King Street West on February 1st. It feels weird saying the Royal Rumble is in February, but
right,
just one day shy of January. So February 1st, Saturday, join us at Gabby's. Limited tickets available. This one always sells out. It will be jam-packed, so do not show up at 7 o'clock. I think it starts at 6, right? Because they flip-flop the opening times and stuff. But we had
it's starting at 6, yeah. So doors from 5, and please don't come before then because we won't be able to let you in, and it's very cold outside. So doors at 5 o'clock. Come with plenty of time to get sat. Get your tickets in advance. I really can't guarantee tickets on the door for this one. And yeah, just head over to our link tree, and I'll put the Eventbrite link is on there. So just poisonrana.ca and you'll be able to grab your tickets.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this. Rumble is always a fun one anyways. Like Rumble and Mania are your two big ones. Dare I say non-fans usually want to watch the Rumble over WrestleMania just because there's gambling involved or numbers and surprises and stuff like that. I'm hoping the Rumble really steps up. I think the last few years have been a bit like not as exciting, like whether it comes down to the actual match itself, or I'm not quite sure what it has been over the past few years. Maybe it's the fact we always fantasy book the most insane things, and then Steve Blackman never shows up, so I just get butthurt.
I think what's difficult these days is the roster is so big, and there's so many talented people that they don't feel the need to necessarily rely on your legends like you used to. And I think that's really been lacking, where I do think the last few years, the like final stretch has been really great. Like I'm thinking both Cody wins like have been so exciting when you had that like great almost match between Cody and Gunther 2 years ago. Last year, you know, Cody and Punk, lots of stuff going on there. But I found it's been sort of the middle portion of the Rumble the last few years that have really dropped. And it's sometimes because you do just need a Steve Blackman to show up or something like that to get that big pop to kind of keep the match alive and the momentum going.
Yeah. We'll definitely chat about some Royal Rumble, but I was watching Women of Wrestling this weekend. I got to shout out the Class Master for becoming the new WoW World Champion. And she won it in a basically a Royal Rumble in a huge battle royal that happened on WoW. And it was getting me in the mood for the Royal Rumble, like people throwing people out and different. They were doing all the hits of Royal Rumble matches where it's like, you know, skimming the cat and managers saving them on the ropes and stuff. And it made me think of what dastardly heel thing is Kofi Kingston going to do? Because usually he's the guy who's doing the crazy spot, but now he's this heel, right? With the New Day stuff. I bet we get something pretty funny from Kofi, like teasing that he's going to do something and then just basically, nah, fuck off. I'm not doing that for you.
Which is probably for the best, because I think it's 2 years in the row where he's actually like slipped up trying to do his spot.
He's messed up a few times in the last few Rumbles.
I'm still pretty sure there was meant to be a spot between him and Booker last year, which was it last year or the year before? And
yeah, right.
He just fucked up too early.
True. Yeah, right. Well, it's okay. If Booker was booking the Rumble, he'd book it for himself to win. So
yeah,
because he was wrestling this weekend against Zilla, and Zilla didn't win, unfortunately.
Was that a Reality of Wrestling?
Oh yeah, of course it was.
Was that with that huge AJ Francis debut?
Biggest return in wrestling ever. You would have thought the fucking Rock showed up, according to some people. But yeah, shout out Reality of Wrestling. Yeah, good stuff. Where do you want to start today with wrestling? Should we stay on topic of WWE?
Yeah, I think start with WWE. We obviously gave our thoughts on Raw on Tuesday, and if you haven't heard those already, I suggest you go over to Post Wrestling and listen to like the first 30 minutes of Up Next, because we really dived in pretty deep into Monday Night Raw on Netflix. We have got some ratings in now. As released by Netflix. So 4.9 million live views worldwide. And in US households, 2.6 million watching. That marks a 116% increase from Raw's 2024 average, which was 1.2 million households. So growth in the demo as well. And the episode achieved the highest US viewership for Raw since April 8th, 2024, which had 2.36 million views on the USA network. Yeah, I've seen people kind of see this both ways. Like the global number, obviously, it wasn't going to do the numbers of NFL and the Jake Paul fight. But 4.9, I think some people are maybe seeing as a bit disappointing. However, over double the amount they've been averaging on the US Netflix. So obviously, like for WWE, this is way more viewers than they ever get. But maybe were they expecting more? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not totally a ratings kind of guy. I like to see wrestling do well because I love wrestling, and the more popular it gets, the better for the business and all that kind of thing. And this was like a big week for WWE because you had a lot of your people who don't watch wrestling but know about it through media or social media and maybe wanted to tune in. Seeing WWE as the number one show for the week or day on Netflix the next day was pretty cool. Seeing that on your Netflix homepage, beating Squid Game. Wrestling fans, of course, were jumping to so many conclusions because wrestling fans are always the smartest people. Being like, look, Raw beat Squid Games. It's the most what? No, it beat Squid Games for a day. That's what happened. And then it was shuffled down to the middle of the show. Now seeing NXT here in Canada, NXT, SmackDown, and Raw, I think going forward will always remain in your most top watched shows of the week. However, like because it aired on Monday, the Tuesday, it says it's the number one show. So like it'll remain like that. But then by Wednesday and Thursday, it drops down to like number 7 or 8 most watched. And like Netflix has so many viewers of all these other shows that like, I think this is a good thing for WWE. I think it was still a Raw. If this was like, hey, worldwide, everyone can watch the Royal Rumble, I think it would have done a whole lot. I think it would have done like, double what it did, but it's still a Raw. It's also, this was the first one where Americans could tune in, but everyone around the world could also tune in for the other shows. So either way, this is a big win for WWE and a good number, but it still shows you where wrestling is on the pecking order of like content out there, because your Squid Games obviously is like huge right now with people catching up. I think a big thing is also having it on Netflix allows you to watch it the day after and the few days after. There's probably a lot more views right now than when they put out that rating, because some people will tune into their Netflix and go, hey, what's this? And then watch it. So like that adds to it, like your DVR counts, like.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a certain window of time because wrestling lies in this weird area where it's, scripted entertainment, but there is a live aspect of it where you feel you want to watch it when it happens, or if not in the next sort of 24, 48 hours. And then after that, it's kind of the news has moved on. And obviously you'd see that with something like the NFL. Those live numbers are huge. I doubt the NFL is having particularly big numbers the next day unless it's people, wanting to check out that Beyonce halftime show or something like that. So yeah, I think that the numbers are good. I think now sort of the dust has settled, and for us being in Canada and like a lot of the rest of the world having all the shows on Netflix. Honestly, I don't think they did a particularly good job, if I'm being honest, with what they put on this week. I thought SmackDown was one of the most missable shows. 3 hours of just absolutely nothing. And yeah, you could say that, well, they're putting all their attention on Raw this week because it's the big Raw debut on Netflix. But most of the world has this show now on Netflix, and it's a great opportunity to grab new fans. And I thought the excess of pandering on Raw was too much and off-putting, and it was a pretty long show. I'm thinking, if I'm someone who's sampling this and thinking, do I want to dedicate my Monday night every week to this? I think the answer would be no, because not enough did happen. and you're not getting The Rock and Undertaker every week coming out. You know, it's fun having those spots, but it's a lot of the pandering that you see at these like boxing events and things. But the thing is, a Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight is, or the equivalent of, is one Saturday every few months, something big like that. It's not weekly TV. And I enjoyed like the spectacle of that Tyson Paul fight, but I don't want to watch that once a week, you know? Yeah. So I think they failed on Monday in doing enough to get new people being like, oh, this is a product I want to sink my teeth into. And these characters are interesting, and I want to see what these characters are doing next week. And I think I mean, we'll go to the NXT rating was the biggest one they've done, right? So that can't be denied. 957,000 viewers, which was an increase from 626,000 the week before. Granted, that was New Year's Eve. And the biggest since the CW debut. Obviously, The Rock is helping that number. And I don't believe we have the Netflix number for that, obviously. But on the other hand, it like, I know I made fun of you on Tuesday for the commercials comment, but it was clear that the matches were cut for time due to an appearance from The Rock, which led to nothing. And again, if you're sampling this product, would that have been something that affected you? I enjoyed NXT this week. I agree with your criticisms. It wasn't their best episode of NXT. It wasn't their worst episode of NXT. SmackDown, however, was bad this week, and it was long. And if I'm, again, someone new who has seen, SmackDown's on Netflix, I kind of dug Monday's Raw, I kind of dug Tuesday, let's give SmackDown a go, I would not be tuning back into that show. So overall, I think they're going to be, you know, flaunting these numbers and how excellent it is. And I'm sure they made a fuckload of money with their multiple sponsors splattered on the ring mat, the commercials, all of that. But I don't think a lot of these people are going to be coming back for week 2 and week 3 and week 4 and week 5. So
yeah,
on that, I think it's a fail. I could be wrong. These numbers could be great next week as well, but I think we're going to see a massive drop off because I really don't think they did enough to capture this audience for another week.
Yeah, I think because we're like so deep into wrestling for years and years and years of our lives, being fans where we watch, being fans of everything, I think WWE Raw did do the job of like bringing new eyes. Like to me and you, we liked the spectacle because they delivered on the pomp and circumstance and all that. But when it came to the actual substance and content, it was kind of like, it was not really up to par. But I do think that seeing The Rock, seeing Undertaker, and seeing them almost like lay out like, hey, look, this is what wrestling is, I think that will help bring people in the long run. And like over time, of course, the ratings might not be as high as their debut worldwide and for, you know, Americans only. I still think they'll remain pretty strong. I think that was a good show to help bring people in because you're seeing all these things. You're seeing the celebrities be excited about wrestling. You're like, oh, wrestling's popular again. I gotta watch this. And then you watch, and then you start to stick around for the characters. For someone like me, it didn't make me want to watch Raw next week. I probably won't. I'll probably still watch Raw the way I watch Raw, the way I watch SmackDown. I asked you today, hey, was there anything worth watching for SmackDown? You were like, absolutely not. So I watched the 9-minute video WWE puts out after every show, the top 10 moments of the show that they clipped for me. So I got to watch SmackDown in about 8 minutes, which was great. But
it felt like an 8-minute show stretched across 3 hours. Like,
I feel like they, as much as maybe like, again, our hardcore audience of wrestling fans maybe didn't walk out of this week being like, well, that wasn't really that good. I do think that it will help bring in newer people and everything. And like ratings, obviously people are going to nitpick. I don't know if Netflix will always give out the ratings like this. I wasn't sure that they were going to in the first place of like, hey, this is what we did. I don't know if I feel like it was less or worse than maybe what we were expecting to do. And again, putting things into perspective, like the Jake Paul fight did 62 million plus Replays, I think, is a big deal because like we're not living in the 80s or 90s anymore. We can watch things whenever we want. I don't have to stay in on a Monday night. I could be working on a Monday night and go, oh, I have to watch Raw, but I'm watching it on Tuesday afternoon, right? You know, like this is a big difference in like the way people consume media and everything. But then I look at what other things are doing. You know, what else are doing really good numbers? And you want to talk about real good numbers? You can look at Wednesday night on ABC, Tim Allen making a new sitcom with Kat Dennings and Stifler. I've been seeing the ads for this for months, shifting gears. And I'm like, what kind of world do we live in where we want a sitcom from Disney with a laugh track in 2025?
Yeah.
Guess what they did? 6.1 on their debut. And the show fucking sucked. That's probably a bad rating for them that they're like, cancel it. Like outside of wrestling, ratings are so good for shows. And 6.1 is probably not even that good for them, which like in wrestling, we'd be like, holy shit, wrestling is back. No, Tim Allen is back apparently, because that's fucking crazy. But like seeing ratings for other things puts in perspective of still the pecking order of wrestling of like, oh, wait a second. Wrestling still maybe, you know, isn't quite Tim Allen, I guess.
Well, I mean, Raw has always been the top rated show on Mondays, unless it's football or news.
Yeah,
so it's always up there, you know, and but I think it's the idea of more of a global expansion as well with this Netflix deal, which I really, watching that SmackDown, they really weren't catering to at all. I just think back to that Tyson Paul fight. Like everyone who was watching for that fight, but I came away with it, and I know a lot of people like really dug that women's fight. What was it? Getting the names. Taylor versus Serrano, which was fucking awesome. And I have no idea who those people are. And I think Raw maybe failed on that. I don't think any of the undercard really delivered in, you know, just having someone like a Chad Gable go out there and just put on a 10-minute
Penta?
Against anyone, yeah. But like, you know, putting on just something where people who might have left wrestling back in 2001 can see what it's evolved into wrestling quality wise. I think that would have helped it. And just some sort of hook. You know, Netflix are the kings of binge watching TV. Why do we binge watch? You're getting to the end of Squid Game, an episode, and they're just in the middle of one game and you think they might die, and then the episode ends and you go, well, I got to watch the next one now to see if they die or not. And I think Raw, there was obviously a bit of a changing of the guard with Rhea winning the title again and that kind of thing. But what was the hook? If you were leaving and being like, I want to come back next week, what was the the hook, the cliffhanger that makes you go, I got to tune in next because I really got to see what happens in this story. Yeah. And it was more of a finale, right? Punk ended his Seth feud, Rhea ended his Liv feud, Roman ended his Bloodline feud. I'm like, cool, I've seen the finale. There's nothing that's driving me to tune in next week. Sino says week 2 should maintain the hardcore fans with the crowning of the first women's IC champ, Sheamus v Kaiser, the debut of Penta, and the Balor pre-street fight, which, sounds great, but I think the hardcore fans are going to be there regardless. So yeah.
I think, you know,
you do need a mix.
A missed opportunity. You're right. I was missing actual wrestling on the Monday night show, like 3 hours of a lot of just like dicking around in the most HD drone pyro advanced technology, like the best looking of that, but still like I was waiting for the content. I think a missed opportunity. You're saying like if there was just like one mid-match in the show that made people go like, oh, hey, like wrestling, this is what it is. Because I don't think you attracted actual wrestling fans from watching Roman Reigns and Solo like bore the shit out of people. Rey Mysterio should have been used because I've mentioned all the time, one of the most recognizable faces in wrestling. And I think if you put him in like a 10-minute match in the middle of that show against fucking anyone, it just would have like added some spark. He's a character that's been around for a long, long time. The mask, it's everything. Like, oh, hey, I know this guy. You see him do a 619, you see him do a moonsault. people be like, oh, wait, oh, this is pretty cool. But you didn't even get that on Monday Night Raw.
You want that thing that's going to sort of grab the eye. You know, I think a lot of people did what we did and had people over to watch Raw. I know it was playing in bars and that kind of thing, whether legal or not. And yeah, I think you want that thing similar to, as I said, that women's fight where everyone's doing their own thing, everyone's having a chat, having a drink, and then suddenly you're like, holy shit, this is pretty good, and catches your eye. And I wouldn't really say anything did that.
You know what's an interesting comment? We had a bunch of people over for Raw, right? And your new roommate, Graham, shout out Golden Graham, go Bills. He had some friends over when we both weren't able to attend for World's End. And he had a friend over who really doesn't like wrestling, who doesn't really watch wrestling, but all the other people in the friend group were hanging out watching the wrestling. So he's like, all right, I'll watch it. And he watched World's End, and then he came over and watched Raw like a week later. And again, dude knows nothing about wrestling and said to Graham, like, this fucking sucks. What's the other show? That was way better. There was actual like athleticism in wrestling. And I was like, that's interesting coming from someone who's like completely blind, completely knows nothing about wrestling, and was like, hey, Raw looked cool and WWE cool, whatever. But what was this other stuff? Because that was pretty interesting. Like those guys were really like killing each other. And really, again, this guy's probably like a guy in his 30s like us, early 30s, who's maybe that content is geared more towards you. Whereas WWE is a bit of a bigger net of just trying to catch anyone and anything. Whereas I just thought that was a little interesting, like hearing someone's honest reaction, maybe first time watching, like possibly ever, giving wrestling a chance just because he's kind of like forced to, because all the guys are hanging out. And at the end of the day, it was like he left during Raw. He was like, yeah, this kind of sucks, I'm going home. And then World's End, he ended up liking it and being like, oh, you know, next time you guys watch that, I might come by and watch that. And I'm like, that's so strange, because usually it's the other way around. Usually like a new fan would be like, oh, I got to see what WWE is, because they cut to Kieran Culkin and they cut to, you know, Travis Scott and like all this stuff. I thought that was like, oh, okay, like maybe the content does still matter. And I think if Raw delivered like a banger of a match, that maybe some people would be like, ooh, I do have to watch wrestling. I do like this. Like, wait, this is fake, but they're killing each other out there, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Some points coming out of SmackDown. Roman Reigns is officially going to enter the Royal Rumble. You know, right now you've announced Roman and Cena. Punk, that's alluded to the fact he's going to be in it, but right there, like three people who potentially could be your final four, or at least I expect angles to happen to set up their Mania direction. But already sounds like it's going to be a pretty stacked Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Having John Cena in the Rumble already added some, not that they needed a bump in ticket sales, I'm sure, but like adding Cena, adding Roman, you imagine Punk, Cena, or Roman is one of your winners. I don't know if we're going to Punk versus Roman at Mania. And if we do, then some sort of tension in costing each other the win there could easily help build to that matchup. But yeah, Cena, Roman, like there's going to be all your other big ones. Obviously, Cody won't be in it when he's won the last two. That is something that comes into effect of like, if someone wins, will they be going after Cody? Will they be going after, you know, Cena winning and then going after Cody? Seems like an easy layup there, but I feel like there's more juice to the story with Elimination Chamber and everything there. So
like
not
constantly
quite sure.
failing on the similar to his story when he ended up facing Undertaker in that brief match. You know, he just keeps on trying to. He'll end up getting a ticket front row again.
Yeah, and then being like, actually, you're in the main event. Oh, I better get my gear on. That would be bad. But I do think he's going to be featured in one of the big matches. Like Cena versus Cody could easily be one of the other ones. Roman versus Punk could main event and not even have a title on the line and for one of the nights. I'm seeing some reports of talks about Logan Paul versus Gunther, which I think is awful, which I think is a waste of Gunther. You know, we just did our best match ever, part 1 and 2 of 2024. And I'm sorry to upset anyone, but like, tell me that Gunther had a match that was one of the best matches of the year. He didn't. He needs a better program going into this year for WrestleMania. Like, he is an awesome character and amazing wrestler. And I feel like he's maybe not had the right dance partner thus far. I don't think Logan Paul would be that answer. I'm sure the match would be fine. Like, sure. But
it's one of those things where he's like set the bar for himself. Like I thought he had some very good matches in 2024, but when you're comparing to his standard and other stuff just being more interesting, I enjoyed the Sammy match. There were matches I certainly enjoyed, but I'm ready for that main event Gunther now in WWE.
So it's like, who else would you pair him off with, right? Like, obviously he's not going to be in the Rumble. He's probably defending his title at the Rumble. So,
I mean, I think, and it doesn't have to be until after Mania, but I think Bron Breakker should be the one to beat him for the title. Right. You can bring in the fact that Breakker was the only guy apart from Ilya to beat him on NXT. So you've got that history as well. I wouldn't even mind a kind of like title for title match, like SummerSlam or something like that. IC title versus World Heavyweight title.
Oh, okay. You're right.
You know, it being Gunther's belt that he had the longest reign. I think there's a bit of history there as well. I feel that would be a feud I'd like to see this year.
Yeah, I think this is a good time for them to kind of kick off the Netflix era, because going into the Rumble is a popular time. There's all like people like me and you, like, oh, fantasy, but what's going to happen? Who's going to win? And all the people are going to be in it. It's such a good time to like get invested around wrestling. This is what kicks off WrestleMania season, and it's the most important time and the most like interesting, all guns blazing version of WWE wrestling. So like, hopefully we're talking about something that's pretty good. I mean, announcing Roman in the Rumble is huge. I'm trying to like look ahead to, if you do CM Punk and Roman, you do Cena and Cody, it's kind of like your backup WrestleMania, it sounds like. And I'm not saying just because The Rock isn't there, but it kind of messes up what was happening in the last like year, in my opinion. Like, I'm not saying by any means Cody versus Cena or Roman versus Punk is like not big enough, because I think those are equally both your main events for both nights. It's still like, you had something that had my attention last year that like has so many people like, ooh, where is this going? Only for The Rock to be like, nah, it's not happening. Broke kayfabe. Cody's my friend, and we're drinking tequila. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is fine too. So like, if you had plans to go to WrestleMania, I feel maybe a little like, oh, well, last year had so much. Like, again, I mean, we're so far out still, but
I think it's a fantastic backup, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a good
backup. They're two huge matches, and I think it's the right idea letting us down now rather than it being post-Chamber, and we're like, wait, Rock isn't happening. I think you've got 4 months now to really build up this Mania, and like, I trust. Obviously, CM Punk is fantastic on the mic. Heyman's mind is going to be behind this all. You're going to tie all in their history and Punk bringing the Shield up and all that. I think that's going to be a good feud. Cena, it's going to come down to what the actual matches look like. But I think that promo was one of the highlights of Raw. And it's after all these years, and trust us, we're going through it monthly on the Champ Is Here, of just the vitriol and hatred towards John Cena. And they're ramming him down our throat, Super Cena, having us now be like, hell yeah, I want you to win a 17th World Championship. I think it's a great story to go out on this year. So I think they're two huge matches, and I hated how The Rock just killed it on Monday. You know, this whole story. It's bothering more and more, and I think maybe Monday and Tuesday I wasn't as upset about it, and the more I think about it, I'm like, what a fucking waste. You know, it would have been better for him to have just out and out said, like, I'm going to Hollywood and shooting Moana. I'm not going to be here, but Cody, I always have your number.
I think you could have
even
had him
like
say that.
Doing the drinks thing. It kind of, remember when I think it was the Go Home to Survivor Series 2001, where Rock and Austin are singing Margaritaville and they're having drinks and everything, and then The Rock goes, but The Rock will never ever forget, and Rock bottoms him. Do something like that, be all pally and stuff, and then being like, but also fuck you.
So like, the more I sit on it, because on NXT we talked about it, like hearing The Rock talk, cool, he could read a phone book and I'm sure people would like love it. I'm sure he'd still be funny, but like, we saw the best version of what he could give us in 2024, and I don't think it came across that way. It came across just as the Dwayne. And if he just was honest, maybe somewhat keeping kayfabe alive of being like, hey, I'm actually busy. I'm too busy for WWE. But Cody, like one day we'll finish. You may have finished your story, but don't forget, because what was the Raw after Mania? Like he gives him something. Like there's stuff you can go off of that they just completely dropped. And then on Tuesday on NXT, The Rock to be like, oh, everyone's mad I was so nice to Cody. It's like, I don't know about that. I think we're just mad that you set up for this huge home run that could be what is WrestleMania.
It killed
41.
the biggest story they've had.
Yeah, you killed my favorite story of the year last year.
We've seen like this Bloodline story it started back in 2020. Like they're way more careful with their stories now, and they can let things like think Drew and Punk, an injury got in the way. They're very capable of letting things simmer now. So I think there was a better way of letting us know as the fans that this isn't happening this year, but it's still there. It's still, this story is ongoing. I think The Rock just feels like this omnipresent figure in WWE. He doesn't have to be there every week, but we know he's there potentially pulling the strings in these Bloodline stories. And it just ripped it all away.
You know, like in another universe, The Rock sends in via satellite, like he used to, promos while he's on the set. Like, oh, hey, Solo. Oh, I'm on camera. Oh, like shit. Like, fuck. Like, there's so many creative ways you could have done this, but instead he basically is like, yeah, I'm not this character anymore. I'm just the Dwayne, and he's breaking that fourth wall a little bit. And I'm not even mad at that. I'm just mad that like, you could have done so much more creatively with it. Instead, he's just like, see you later, essentially, for right now. But I don't know. Maybe that was, they figured that was to let it go so that we don't get riled up about it, and let's focus on what we're actually going to get at WrestleMania. So I guess I sound like this awful classic wrestling fan of just being bitter and grouchy at like the backup plan, even though the backup plan to a lot of people maybe is even more interesting than having the Dwayne show up for WrestleMania. But myself personally, like after the success of last year, like The Rock really hit it home for me last year. We had plans to go to Mania last year, but when The Rock got involved, it made it seem so bigger and so much better. And this year, even though he's not involved, you got a lot of other key players like your John Cena's and etc. So like it still is WrestleMania. It still will be big, but I'm like, I'm not too bummed if I'm missing this one. You know, it already feels that way. And of course, there's months and months to go, but it's like the backup plan is a backup plan. You know, like what would it have been if he was here? Cody versus Rock night one, and Cena versus Roman, Cena versus Gunther. Like there's clearly some other direction they were going to go, but
yeah, I could see Cena Gunther. Where that leaves Roman, I don't know. He's a bit of a loose end there. I guess.
I guess Punk.
No, Roman Punk. Roman Punk would have been happening, and yeah, I think that would have been the case.
Yeah.
Also coming out of SmackDown, Bayley won a 4-way to be number one contender and will be challenging Tiffany Stratton for the title next week. Bayley really, like, ever since winning the title last year at Mania, hasn't really done a whole lot, and it seems a bit of a sacrificial position being Tiffany Stratton's first challenger on TV. I don't see this going to Bayley. Whether next week we get some sort of interference from Nia and could potentially set up a triple threat for Royal Rumble, or just the Nia Stratton match. I'm kind of hoping we can blow off this Nia feud by Rumble, so we can have something different for Stratton at Mania. I hope this isn't something we're building Stratton versus Nia for Mania.
It's crazy that Tiffany Stratton in the promo says, I'm 25, young champion, and I'm already better than your favorites. Absolutely true. Sorry, Bayley. Like, you had an amazing match and moment at WrestleMania, and then they went, we don't really have anything else left for you on this story. It's like, you finished your story here, and it was great. The match with Io was fantastic, but then it was kind of like, after that, not a very important character. And here being thrown to Tiffany right away, like, sure, Bayley's a name that people know, but I feel like her stock is kind of dropped a whole lot, being just like, we don't really know what to do. The character is all over the place. I don't even know what her character is. Tiffany is leagues above a lot of people on this roster. I have no interest in watching Nia versus Tiffany, but they got to go to that match, obviously, with what happened. So get that out of the way at the Rumble. And then what is your Tiffany dream matchup for WrestleMania? Like, what are the options there? Charlotte coming back, Becky
It's
coming
Charlotte
back?
or Becky for me. It's one of those two. Both are interesting. The Becky matches were great at NXT. You've already got that history. Stratton needs to like avenge her loss because Becky took the title off her from NXT. But the Charlotte match as well, you know, the similarities are obvious between the two. And I hope it's one of those two. There's on it for Mania, I don't think there's much else other than those two that would interest me for Tiffany.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like lacking in the how they treat certain stars. Like at one point, Bianca felt like a really big deal, felt like the John Cena of the women's division, and right now, past year, hasn't felt like she's basically just been Jade's trainee, essentially, like trainer, I guess, in a way. So like bringing Bianca back to that prominent role could really help. That's a big match you could go towards, but like there's people in NXT that eventually when they get called up should be a big deal if used properly. But yeah, as much as like, oh, like WWE's on this super big high right now, I feel like the women's division isn't necessarily that great right now. You got the same people who are on top, and some of the characters that have gone and left, like we're waiting for them to come back so that it fills those voids. They have all this talent, but the way they've been booked doesn't make us care about them. So
what I'm worried about with Stratton as well is I think she's great and obviously has one of the more defined characters. I think that's a big issue with the women's division. You've got good wrestlers there, but the characters are lacking. And I think that's why you're seeing a Chelsea Green hold the title right now, the US title and that kind of thing.
Chelsea, if she didn't have this title, she should be the one to have a big she's like elevating. Like she should drop this title by this year and go for the other title, because like she's becoming one of the most interesting, and think of how many years she was grinding doing the like comedy kind of character that is totally working.
Yeah, she's an interesting character. I mean, like, you know, your Lyras and your Meechins are great, but there's nothing I couldn't tell you what is their character? Who are they? What are their motivations? Like,
what's the thing when you're in wrestling school, right? When you go to wrestling school and you learn, you're supposed to explain your character in 5 words, right? That's what you're supposed to. They teach you. What Bird Lady is one of the characters. Meechin, I have no idea. Bailey,
and she had I one of the funniest moments for me, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but when they cut to Lyra front row, it was like that Hillary Clinton looking at was it Bubbles or whatever? She's like,
whoa,
wow. They clearly told her like a stand up and look impressed by the arena here. And she, wow, like looking around. But but the worry I have with Tiffany is going too cartoonish. I think she's great. I didn't particularly like her promo on SmackDown this week. She's relying on the catchphrase. It's becoming very Zero Miedo, where it's like, I have to say it's Tiffy time when I come out on the stage, when I get on the apron, when I'm then in the ring, when I'm about to hit my move, when I win my match. Like it's getting a bit grating on me.
It's WWE. As soon as they get something popular.
And I think she's better than that. I think we've seen her be in NXT. We've seen her be very capable on the mic. And I hope she can get away from that.
I think it's something that maybe it's selling merch, like having it on t-shirts and stuff. So I'm sure, but it's classic WWE. As soon as something is popular, we better run with that and run it into the fucking ground until it's not cool anymore. And I guess that's what is going to happen. But she's got a whole lot of other stuff. Like we saw her in NXT pivot away from the daddy's little rich girl character to just being Tiffany Stratton. Like they dropped that completely and it made her even more successful. So I feel like she'll be absolutely fine. Again, I'll die on the sword. She's leagues above like women's wrestlers who have been in the company for maybe 10 years. Like she's better than characters that have been trying and sinking slowly. Like she's already surpassing that very, very quickly. And we kind of saw that in NXT. Like, hey, wait a second. Like very talented, buff Barbie, and already killing it and already champion. So I think we'll be like cutting to her on Raw in the crowd. She got a big reaction. She got a big reaction to some of the legends they like showed and cut to, and like
should have had a title with her, but yeah,
that was odd. Same with Cody.
Yeah,
Cody, who's the WWE champion, didn't have his title with him. I guess that was a choice, but yeah.
Now, something I thought we could talk about is the transfer window, which is apparently open, but apart from the commentary teams and poor Corey Graves, we haven't seen much happen from this yet. So I put out to the Poisonrana universe what you'd like to see, and especially coming off of that SmackDown, I think that show desperately needs a bit of a shakeup. So I'm asking 3, wrestlers or tag teams to move from Raw to SmackDown and vice versa. Who you'd move up from, one person from NXT to Raw, one to SmackDown, what big feud you'd book on each brand, and who maybe isn't getting a big push right now would you like to see get a big push?
This transfer window thing they've been trying to do is such bullshit. We do this anyways, and this whole brand split we're telling you doesn't actually mean jack. It doesn't mean anything. We'll do whatever we want whenever we want. If Cody's going to be on fucking Raw, if Roman and Solo are going to wrestle on Raw, they're going to wrestle on Raw because we saying they are. Like, I this whole brand thing just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's so not believable. But if you were to like try to treat it good, there is a few like characters that I feel like aren't being used on some of the shows, like Andrade. Now I know some people are totally just done with him because it's like, fuck, what have you done for anyone lately as a fan? Like going to one place complaining, going to another place complaining. Like, dude, if you don't want to wrestle, that's fine. Just go away. Like, if that's what it seems like, at least. He's someone though, like I still think back, I know you think of it too, to Andrade, Gargano, and Chill. And it's like, man, deep down, I know there's a good wrestler in there. So part of me is like, hey, if he's not being used, what show is he on? Raw? It's part
SmackDown.
of he's on. Okay, then let's put him on Raw. let's like, I guess they put him on SmackDown to be away from whatever LWO stuff. But like, I don't know. He's someone that like, part of me is like, hey, give him a chance and let's see what he can do. But the other part of me is like, no, because every time he just seems like he's grumpy to be there. Doesn't want to take a pin. Like maybe he'll be hanging out with Malachi Black on SmackDown again very soon because they seem to get along great. But he's someone that like if you were to move Andrade to NXT tomorrow, like you could be having some great matches and a great story. I just feel like in the right setting and the right partner there could be something interesting. But ever since coming back to WWE, he hasn't been interesting at all. So that is someone that when you ask me, I'm like, okay, I did think he was on Raw, but I don't like, again, it doesn't fucking matter because they always jump to each show.
Well, I mean, I think until recently, the brand split has been pretty fixed for the last year or so. And I imagine this transfer window is going to be fluid for a couple of months or whatever, while we're getting Netflix up. I think they will like make it a bit more solid again. So would you push Andrade or move Andrade? Or both?
I guess like he comes to mind, someone like a Private Party comes to mind. I got to shout out What Up Though, B Detroit and See No Evil. They were discussing on their show this week about Omos having a great run in Japan. If you've seen some of this stuff, this dude's just enjoying life, living as a giant amongst short people in Tokyo. But they mentioned B and Cino were talking about him being teamed with Montez Ford. Like if you were to ever break up Private Party, not Private Party, they're on the other show. What's it called? Street Profits. Like I feel like that would be something pretty cool, but I don't want to see them break up. So maybe have them be heels with like the scary looking Omos. Like if you put Street Profits down in NXT, I'd love to see them feud with Fraxium and do stuff with them. Or if you're asking someone from NXT, I'd take Fraxium and put them on the main roster and have them team with the Street Profits or win the titles and team with it, face off against DIY or all sorts of stuff. But I feel like when you asked me this, it made me think of characters that I think are genuinely good when used properly. And Street Profits come to mind. Andrade, even though like for a while he's kind of been kind of shit, but like I do think that. I do think Drew being on Raw if you moved him to SmackDown for the Elimination Chamber cycle to feud with Cody for that pay-per-view. I think that would be pretty good. Like Drew Cody at Chamber, that's a pretty big match. And then eventually somehow getting Judgment Day in whatever form this is versus the Bloodline in whatever form they're in right now. Like I think there's a big opportunity to have them face off in some sort of fashion, but I don't know. What are some of the ones that came to mind for you?
So I was thinking I'd like to see SmackDown really focus on the tag division and try to build that up and think back to, the SmackDown 6, like those days where it was SmackDown, this is the wrestling show. So I'd move American Made, so Chad Gable and the Creeds to SmackDown. I'd also call up Fraxium to SmackDown. So then you've got a division with the Creeds, Fraxium, DIY, Street Profits, Motor City Machine Guns, which I think is a pretty solid tag division. Like you, I'd move Drew to SmackDown. I think that would be like keep him in the top mix, but a fresh character. I'd also move Priest to SmackDown. I think it's time for him after this Finn Balor match to move away from all Judgment Day stuff and have him separate from Rhea and separate from all of that and try some new feuds over on SmackDown. I'd move Kevin Owens to Raw. I'd love to see a Kevin Owens CM Punk feud.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think just think of the mic work alone between those two. Unfortunately, Owens will probably be the sacrificial lamb again, but I think that program sounds awesome.
Like think of all the Young Bucks jokes and references we'll get out of that feud.
I'd move Roman over to Raw. I think they're gonna want him on Raw as like the big star he is. And Bayley, I'd move to Raw. We've kind of talked about her. She's done nothing. I think a Bayley Rhea feud is something we haven't really seen and something we could go to down the line. On Raw, I'd focus, if we're focusing on tag teams on SmackDown, I'd focus on the women's division on Raw. I think we really need to build that up. We've got so many people in NXT ready to move up. I'd move up Roxanne Perez. I'd have her right in that Intercontinental title mix.
Yeah.
Her, Lyra, Dakota, Io, just try and build up this workhorse title of just women's wrestlers. And maybe through that, a few of them might be able to break through and develop a bit more of a character as well. The Roman and Punk feud, I think that's your money feud for Raw. I think down the line, Cody and Randy Orton, maybe doesn't look like for Mania, but maybe for a SummerSlam, big summer program between the two. I think that could be good for SmackDown. I'd look to further push Bron Breakker. I think he should be a guy we're talking about in main events. I mentioned earlier, I think sort of a Gunther feud would be good. And I'd push Jacob Fatu, have him take over the reins of whatever Bloodline 2.0 becomes.
3.0.
Yeah, he should be the guy. He should be in that world title mix not so long. I actually loved Bron Breakker, Jacob Fatu. They had that stare down a couple of months ago, which kind of got the juices flowing a little bit and got fans interested. So that's something I'd like to see. But I think that would be a good shakeup.
It's just weird because it's like, I guess because it's this whole Netflix thing, but like having all your SmackDown people show up on Raw happened so much this year already, like vice versa. Like, again, they don't actually care about this split or anything, except when it works in their favor. But another one that comes to mind is, I know he's injured, but AJ Styles, which I know he's been tweeting recently saying like, hey, this injury is actually pretty sucky. Like it sounds like he's going to be out for still quite a while. But when he comes back, like I think right before this injury, he was showing people like, hey, look, don't forget, I'm AJ Styles. And people were like, oh shit, wait a second. AJ's still good. AJ's great. Now I know he got injured, but when he comes back, I would really love AJ Styles versus Gunther one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
We need to go to that. Like AJ is getting up there. We only have so many years left of AJ Styles. So let's get some of those big programs going when he's back. I need to see AJ cook. AJ Ilya, AJ Gunther. You mentioned Fatu, something with him. Like there's a few things that you could go to that they haven't done quite yet. So I'd like to see that. I'm not quite sure what else right now, because like Cody's champion. Cody's your main guy, and he's going to be for quite a while, whether he's the title holder or not. Like, he's your big quarterback, as he likes to call himself. So, like, as other big baby faces, I'm not quite sure who else we have. But I would like a shake-up with Kevin Owens, because I don't see him beating Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble. And I do think a program with him and Punk down the line would be a big money one. And like, Kevin Owens is someone they use as that, you said, sacrificial lamb. Like, he's been used as that for so long. And in return, they're like, look, you're not going to win the title against Roman. You're going to have some pretty bad feuds, and you're always going to be the guy getting pinned and losing. But you're going to main event WrestleMania with Stone Cold fucking Austin. He's like, all right, I'm in. And then it's like, hey, we're going to have a year where you're treated badly and you lose a lot, but you're always the one who's cutting promos and having TV matches and everything, but you're going to lose. You're never going to be champion. You're going to main event with your best friend and win the tag titles at WrestleMania. Okay, fine, great. Now it's like, hey, we're going to put you in a feud with the WWE champion. Okay, great. You're going to lose. Okay, fine.
He's kind of work rate Kane, isn't he? Whether babyface or heel, he's the guy we put in those B pay-per-view challenges who will be a feud for a little bit. It's not going to be your Mania feud, and you're not going to win the title, but he's always relied upon in that way, and he's great at it.
He really is. Like, I always joke and I always call him Kevin Steen, because I do differentiate the two of them. Like, Kevin Owens, I'd say maybe right now is getting closer to like being this heel character, but like, we know deep down this guy can be a nasty dude. And like, I'm waiting to see that still. And I think a feud with Punk could really bring that back out of him. Like, I want this guy to be the vicious, powerbomb your own friend on an apron to get a step ahead. I want this guy being mean and nasty the way that we kind of brought him to the dance in the first place. And since being in WWE, he's been I don't know if I compare him to Kane, but like, I know what you're saying, but it's like, he's been safe ever since. And I feel like the way to elevate and maybe give him a world title run again is to have him like really take it to the next level. And I think someone like a CM Punk really could be an interesting feud that we would get, whether it's 2025 or 2026 or whatever. But like, Kevin Owens is still a big draw. He gets a big reaction because again, he's always working the house shows when they do them, I guess, but he's like a big star. We've been to so many shows and he always gets a big reaction. He's always, maybe because we're in Canada, but like, people are always wearing his shirts and everything. Like, I do feel like he's a proper star in WWE.
I know we've had this conversation before, but I would completely disagree with you with him being safe. Like, he's the guy that puts his body on the line more than anyone in that company. He's taking ridiculous back bumps on ladders when he doesn't need to. You're not 21 on the indies anymore. You're not going to be like, killing yourself.
Outside of that tag match with Sammy, which was like an incredible tag match with the Usos, like, I can't name you, maybe since the John Cena debut, of like a highlight of like something that stands out at the end of the year. Like, holy shit, look what he did this year. He still like hasn't fully become maybe the character that like I would like to see. He's become a WWE-ified version of what I used to really, enjoy. I'm not saying I don't enjoy him. I still love watching him, but he hasn't become like, I don't know, like a main character. They push him really, really well. And again, he's over the pandemic, he was like saving grace for WWE because he was the guy taking those back bumps and doing crazy stuff. But it still hasn't hit for me the way like I thought it was when you first saw him come in, take out John Cena. You're like, wow, they're really gonna go like left field with this guy. And I haven't necessarily felt that way. And it sounds like I'm shitting on him when like it's one of my favorite guys, but still
realistically, company with John Cena's and Roman Reigns's and Cody Rhodes, and I think it's incredible that he is in the position he's in.
Sure, yeah,
because he's not your conventional guy, and he's had his moments, but just look at the history of WWE. Like, you'll give a Daniel Bryan his moment, but he's still not going to be the guy. I think it's I don't know. I don't see there being much of a higher ceiling than he's already achieved. Really.
And they've given him so much, and it's because he's given them and given us like so much over the last few years. And I'm not saying that he hasn't. I'm just like, part of me is like, like before WWE, you used to be the highlights of certain shows. And since being in WWE, it's like there's been one or two times over the last, I don't know, he's been employed for like 10 years, it seems like, right? Like since NXT era kind of thing. And it's like, I just feel like there is a like wonder, like so many people fantasy book him leaving WWE to go to AEW. And in 2025, this is just a ridiculous like thing to think. I think I wouldn't think he's ever leaving. He's such a lifer. But part of me wants to see him like just do something a bit different than what he has been doing in WWE. And I think a feud with someone like a CM Punk who can match him on like wittiness and being,
I see it being like the Eddie
you know.
Kingston feud. And I think you can have Kevin still as a heel in that feud, but people would still side with Kevin.
Yeah.
I think it would be money. I think it would be a great. You'd be tuning in weekly just to watch their segments.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would be that kind of feud, which I'd really like to see. We do have some of our. Sorry.
Oh no. I'm just saying, like, yeah, like I love Kevin Owens, and I think he's a very big asset to WWE. Again, look at the pandemic era. Like he was someone who was busting his ass and not getting the best out of it. And then it came to, again, they rewarded him with 2 WrestleMania main events, and like, good, he deserved it. Bless him, and it's awesome. But a part of me still feels like he's a little watered down of what I think he is kind of capable of. And I'm not saying he needs to be pushed like Cody Rhodes or Roman. I'm just like the content and the quality of stuff. Look, if The Rock can come out there and swear 16 times on NXT, like let this guy say some shit, you know, like let this guy say some things that might ruffle some feathers once in a while. Because on SmackDown, the one thing I did like out of this was him yelling at Cody, like, I saw you shaking hands with The Rock, you bastard, or whatever. Like, and now you're shaking hands with Paul Heyman. Like, when he can be mean and nasty, he's good. But he's too mean and nasty that they won't ever let him reach that potential, I think, because it's WWE and you got to, you know, go by the rules and stuff. But I hope that we get another world title run out of Kevin Owens. Maybe not in 2025, but one day.
We have some listeners' thoughts. Just Gordon on Twitter wants Imperium, Bron Breakker, and Seth Rollins to go to SmackDown. Cody, Kevin Owens, and Nakamura to Raw. He says this lets Kevin and Drew join forces, with the end point Drew taking the title from Cody and eventually leading to a Kevin and Drew feud. And thinks it's time for the bloodline stuff to die off for a little bit. We have Cameron Gilbert, who says, what a fantastic idea. I'd move Wyatt Six to SmackDown, Creeds and Gable to SmackDown, and Pete Dunne to SmackDown. He'd move Mello to Raw, Pretty Deadly to Raw, and LA Knight to Raw. He says, not the most exciting, but all of them need rehabbing going into Mania. He'd move Fraxium to SmackDown and would move Trick to Raw to reunite with Mello. He'd push Gable and the Creeds on SmackDown, and he'd push Mello with Trick on Raw. And he's even pushing a Mello and John Cena feud with Trick in the corner. I guess calling back to that little moment they had back in NXT. Yeah. And we also have, I think this is Magan, who wants Finn, Ilya, and Kiana James to SmackDown from Raw. Blair Davenport, Mello, and Giovanni Vinci to Raw from SmackDown. He'd call up Roxanne Perez to Raw, and JC Jane to SmackDown. Wants a Bayley and Roxanne Perez feud, and thinks Balor needs a clean slate once Judgment Day kicks him to the curb.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like Finn is another one that's like, since really being in WWE, it's like he's not really. There's been some injuries, unfortunate timings and stuff, but I don't know. He's become someone
just an entrance.
Like ever since coming into WWE, it's like, man, I don't know. Like this guy is always in amazing shape, but his matches don't hit, like not at all. And he's someone that when he first signed with WWE was like the big thing. Like, oh my God, it's this guy from New Japan and all this stuff. He just really hasn't done much. And every time
in hindsight, even his NXT run wasn't. I think
dated.
we were so caught up in just NXT being hot, and this was a guy who was big outside WWE and New Japan and the Indies. Had the entrance, had the demon look, which was very different at the time. But I've always found it a little bit smoke and mirrors with him. Like I think he's good, but I don't think he's a world champion. level guy.
Yeah. Like he would need a whole reset. And they've tried with the Judgment Day and making him mean and stuff, but it hasn't worked for me. He's kind of become a character that I don't like watching, like, especially with the Judgment Day stuff. Like, I don't watch him because I don't like it. Like, and this is someone I used to like watch before WWE. You'd be excited about some of his matches in New Japan and stuff. But yeah, I feel like anytime people talk about the golden age of NXT, I'm like, yeah, but wrestling's moved on since then. And he hasn't. He's still just kind of the same old guy and the same wrestling and everything. And I don't know, maybe he's just comfortable. He's like most of these wrestlers. It's like you work so hard to get to this level to be able to, you know, afford a house and a family and all these things. And then you kind of just coast from there. You don't need to go on the grind and prove yourself anymore. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass, but a few wrestlers like Shinsuke come to mind. Like maybe just dude likes to surf. I don't know. Like, sure, you can change your entrance and pretend you're a ghost. Doesn't make you good again. It hasn't, in my opinion. So it's like, I don't know. Finn, I always want to see them try, but then at the end of the day, I'm just kind of disappointed in what he produces on TV. So yeah, I don't know.
Some other WWE news, if you're ready to move on. Vince McMahon, former WWE CEO, faced penalties due to undisclosed payments made during his tenure. It's his NDAs. He's been fined $400,000 as a civil penalty from the SEC and has reimbursed $1.33 million back to WWE.
So what's that, like $25 to him?
Yeah, it's nothing.
That's like nothing to what this guy's net worth is, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't change anything. He's probably laughing at that. Like, oh yeah, I'll get sure. Let me go in my pocket right there. Let me take that out. Oh yeah, here you go. Fine. This like I'm trying to wrap my head around this because obviously this is still we're still tangled up with the like Janelle Grant stuff, and it sounds like her attorney is like this is sort of proof. Like, look, he's paying this out because he knows that he did bad shit,
fucked up. Yeah.
But then his tweet this week, or whoever I guess runs his socials, I can't imagine Vince McMahon actually goes on Twitter. I mean, maybe in today's age with Elon and shit, maybe he does. He fits in, but it sounded like, hey, this is done, and it's like, wait, no, it's not. This is a complete like farce. You're lying. This is just you talking out your ass as you always do. So with people kissing it, but. Yeah, more bullshit from Vince McMahon. I hope we never get to see him in WWE again. I saw, what was it, Bruce Pritchard or someone else was talking about how Vince is working on an entertainment company and working with different people. Like, if you're in the wrestling world and you put your name to him, like maybe like it would have to be non-WWE people, because if you were attached to WWE and you try to do stuff with him, that could be a bit of bad business. But like, what would he possibly do? Like, first of all, he's old. He's kind of disgraced. And when I say kind of, he's fucking disgraced. Yeah. I don't know if there's any interest to see anything this guy does. Like, you're rich as fuck. Go away. We know from years of Vince and the doc and everything that he doesn't like to not work, because he said it himself. He'd rather die than work. It's like, well, we don't really want you to work. So what's the other option again? Go away, dude. Like, fuck, you didn't create wrestling. Let's also remember that. You helped make it big. You fucking sure did, dude. We're here watching wrestling because you introduced it to so many people. But at the end of the day, you didn't create the 3 ring ropes. You didn't create the 4 turnbuckles. So fuck off. Go sit on a beach somewhere. Fuck off.
No, I completely agree. Like, not much more to say on it. It does feel like it. I mean, I'm glad. What is it? Ann Callis, Janelle Grant's lawyer, is like, nope, we're still pursuing this. This is still going on. So we'll see what comes next.
Like, there's a chance this guy never faces any other, anything other than a slap on the wrist and a little fine here and there. There's a chance this doesn't end up going anywhere. It should. Looking at all the bad stuff from Vince McMahon, especially the doc, that kind of opened a lot of hardcore fans' eyes. They're like, wait a second, this guy did what now? They did what? What did they do? Like, there's a whole lot of stuff. The NDAs, like, will we ever learn about other people? Will other people ever come forward with things? Do they want to keep things private? Like, there's a whole lot of nasty dirt on this guy. And I hope he gets his day where he has to go to jail, but I don't think that's ever going to actually happen, considering who's about to be sworn in as president in a few days. He could just get pardoned. He could get I don't know. He could be put on the fucking. Oh, you're a sex pest? Actually, we might have room for you in my cabinet. Is what the Trump
Probably
administration's kind of looking like in the news. So yeah, go away, Vince, please.
Absolutely. I don't think I've got any more WWE stuff to talk about. Shall we move on to some AEWs?
Yeah, let's talk about some actual wrestling for sure.
So we had Dynamite this week. Where do you want to start with Dynamite?
Yeah, we can go through from like top to bottom. I mean, we started off with Buddy Matthews taking on Will Ospreay in an awesome opening match on Dynamite. Like these two were going at it, especially with Buddy showing off some of his skills. We don't see Buddy in singles matches all the time, and to see him against Ospreay was pretty cool, including that Kenta-like reverse GTS into the curb stomp that Ospreay sold, like complete death. Which was crazy. Of course, he kicked out at 2, though. But I thought this was a pretty fun opening match. And then Ospreay's promo was a weird way for everyone to find out, oh, is House of Black done? What do you mean, this stable? What do you mean being held down? And then the reports are flying in from all left and right. Malachi Black to be done with AEW.
I'm still waiting for the Malachi Black on Twitch going, I don't know why everyone thinks I'm leaving. Like, what made people think this? Why do people assume I'm leaving?
Shows up in the Royal Rumble. Why do people think I'm leaving AEW?
Why do people think I've left? Yeah, fucking tit.
This is cool though, like because Ospreay kind of like, hey, we could be friends. I can be your buddy, pal, friend. I thought that was a nice little like, ooh, wait a second, like. Going into the future, like stables, tag teams, like Buddy is always like a side dude for other people. And like from this match, you see him wrestling, like the crowd were behind him. We like to see this guy wrestle. He looks like an absolute unit. Like this guy always comes to TV fucking jacked as shit, man. So like, yeah, push Buddy Matthews. Fuck it. Dubstep cowboy for life.
Yeah, I want to. I really enjoyed the match. Obviously, like you think of these guys, it's Will who's great with everyone, but Buddy is no slouch. Sorry, yeah, Buddy is no slouch at all. The promo afterwards was a little weird, like as you said, kind of telling us, oh, I guess Malachi's done. I don't want to see Buddy team up with Ospreay at all. Like I didn't sense that that's where it's going. I think House of Black should all part and go their own ways and be singles acts. I think had you have not just done the Kyle Fletcher feud, I think kind of doing with Buddy here what Ethan Page did with Javon would have been pretty good. You know, it's Ospreay, this younger guy, newer to the company, hasn't wrestled as long, who's going, hey man, I think you're good and you've got this. Buddy. Just keep your head up, buddy, and you're real talented. And one day you're gonna get it. Like, I'd be you patronizing prick. I'm gonna break your neck, you know. And I wonder if that's where we're going, because I think there is. I think that would be quite interesting to do. Maybe not on a pay-per-view level, but Buddy attacks Will after feeling sort of condescended and has a bit of a meaner streak. And you know, you can have Brody break out as a babyface on his own and maybe keep Buddy as a heel and have a little Ospreay program. But I think if you're doing that, it might be a little too soon after the Fletcher turn to do that kind of feud with Will. But yeah, and as Sino's mentioning, Cope had the same sort of promo with Brody on Collision last night, being like, hey man, you got this. You can go out on your own. You don't need no man, Brody.
Like, you know what? I gotta take a second because I didn't even think of this. Like, is the House of Black just going to continue without him? There's 3 other people. They can continue without them. They're pretty popular. It's just Malachi Black. I want to like this guy so much. Aleister Black. I want to like you so much, but you make it really hard to be a fan because, first of all, like the whole internet take on, hey, this guy doesn't like to take pins. You could see that being true because over the last few years, I don't know how many times he's at, like I remember Cody pinned him, but like it's very rare that this guy would lose in a match. And on top of that, you're telling me that you're done with this company and you didn't go out like helping your stable. You didn't do a feud with Buddy or Brody that you get beat up and then you're gone from AEW. You didn't do that. You just disappear, and it's Will Ospreay who has to inform everyone. Like, was that the plan? Like, was that AEW? Was that Tony? Like, wow, Malachi dipped on us and didn't say anything. We don't have him for TV, so let's bury him. Essentially, is what, like, maybe, like, it just comes sour. It just comes like, wow, you're just dipping and you're going to go back to WWE, obviously going back to WWE, and that's it. Like, what a shit run, in my opinion.
He'll just be another Andrade, in my opinion, because I don't think this guy will be happy.
Ever. It seems like he'll never be happy. I can't.
He seems like a miserable prick, and like, I'm over him. Like, yeah, he was cool. He's had good matches in the past, but I don't need to see Malachi Black, and I'm saying that because I've barely seen him for the last 3 years.
It's just like, what a waste of a signee. Like, he didn't do anything in AEW that we thought he was going to do. And I don't know what it was, politics or this and that. Just like, what a wet fart that was in AEW. Like, House of Black, cool. A lot of people like it. I don't think it ever got over as like one of their big main storylines, but we always need goth characters and spooky characters in wrestling. And they did it on a fine line of like being cool. And people did like them. Don't get me wrong. And I like this guy. But like I said, he makes it hard to like this guy because he does come across like a bit of a, like, I don't know, bit of an asshole. And that's just someone watching as a fan from afar, because anytime people report stuff on him that may or may not be true, he goes on social media, goes on Twitch, and he's whining and saying, why are people talking this about me and this and that? And it's like, I don't know. If you were truly buddies, pun intended, with Buddy, Brody, this is how you end this whole relationship? What does that make you think of, like, how he treats or thought of this group or AEW as a whole? It seems like he doesn't care about them whatsoever. And I'm not being AEW, yeah, he's leaving. Like, no, it's just like, you're just leaving and that's it. And we find out through a Will Ospreay promo after a Buddy match. Like, wouldn't Buddy and Brody be peeved that that's how this ended? Like, no rub, no helping them, no nothing, no reference, just, yeah, he's gone. It's like, oh, that's kind of shitty, in my opinion. And again, maybe that wasn't his call, but it kind of sounds like that was his call. So there's one positive.
It seems to be Tony Khan's way of doing things, isn't it? He just ices people. He doesn't doesn't write them out in story or anything, doesn't put anyone else over on their way out, just makes them disappear.
Like having him be in a House of Black match and then they lose and then he walks out, or like does his sit down thing and says the house is, over, or the house is for sale, anything. But instead it was just like, oh, Will Ospreay is the one who's letting everyone know. Like, again, that may have been a Tony thing, but either way, like, I'm surprised this dude wasn't going on social media saying like, oh, I'm actually gone, or this and that. So it's a weird gray area. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, we figure things out. Because I know he wrestled last night in Florida at an indie show. So like, the one positive that I know we will get out of this is at the Royal Rumble, you'll get a countdown and we'll hear, no man is ever truly good. No man is ever truly evil. Because that song fucking slaps.
We ain't getting that song if he comes back. We're getting some god awful. He didn't even have that song when he left.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
man,
it changed. Sick. So yeah, unfortunately, it
I loved his,
that. But
I loved his AEW theme too, the Screaming Goats music. Like, that shit goes hard too. But I'm just like, man, you could be so good. And I do think he will go back to WWE. I think Triple H will try to push him as long as he doesn't become his own enemy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with this dude, but he makes it so hard to be a fan, I think. So he seems like he's gone from AEW. So I can't even think of stuff that he did in AEW that was good.
Yeah. No, so, me neither.
Sorry for being negative, but like, tell me, like, I can't think of it.
We had Kenny Omega return.
Yes.
Give his update, his speech. He's talking about overcoming diverticulitis. He kind of did a bit of a Rock thing where he's like, hey, remember when I was feuding with the Elite? Well, I'm I'm over that. Like I almost died, and I can't be bothered to finish that story. So don't even think about it because I ain't going in that direction. And kind of warned us that we might not get quite the Kenny Omega of old, but he's gonna give it what he's got.
Okay, I laughed at that part.
Wrestle Kingdom begs to differ, but
you might not get the Kenny Omega that you remembered. It's like, dude, first of all, you're wearing a bandage over your head because you ran the blade 4 days ago in a battle that some are saying is the best match in fucking years. And he's like, you might not get the classic Kenny downplaying himself. Like, dude, you are back. You're the fucking king of this shit. Like, yeah, I love this guy, and having him come back is a big deal for me and makes my excitement like back for Dynamite for sure. I didn't think the crowd was the right crowd. I don't know where they were on Wednesday, but like I felt like it wasn't very like loud or supportive of things, like reacting maybe the way they thought it was going to do. And that's a thing with AEW. Obviously, their crowd and ticket sales and all that aren't the best, but when Dawn came out and Ospreay came out is when they finally were like, oh, wait, okay, this is all tangling together. And like the moment where Ospreay saves Kenny and then they have the face-to-face is like, ooh, okay, interesting. So there's so many different things that we can go in different directions. The Don Callis family, they've announced it's Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega for Maximum Carnage on Wednesday. And Brian Cage on social media says that I signed with AEW because I wanted this match, and it took me 5 years, and I'm finally getting this match. So I expect a fucking banger between these two, because Brian Cage is like gonna go balls to the wall with, like I have a feeling this match will be very, very good. So I'm very excited about that. Also love the name Maximum Carnage. Shout out the Super Nintendo game, I think it was. So like I love this direction, because will we get a tag match between Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega versus Fletcher and Takeshita? That's money.
I think so. I think you do that in Australia. I think you do the tag. That sounds awesome. Like Kenny in these tag matches we've had in the past have been
crazy,
fantastic. The idea of Kenny and Ospreay teaming, I think that sounds great.
Take my money.
And I think doing that on the Australia show to set up for probably Kenny versus Takeshita, I'd go with that. Or even Kenny and Fletcher down the line sounds great as well. Both. Yeah. All combinations of that sound great. Obviously, Ospreay and Fletcher still have that rubber match to go to, but yeah, that sounds awesome.
This is great. Like the story going, it looks like they want to do All In Kenny versus Okada one more time. That makes total sense. That's going to help some ticket sales for sure. I've already seen people online like, oh shit, like clearly that's the match you do at a big stadium show. Like that's huge. But Kenny being back, saying, oh, hopefully I'm the same Kenny, and then he's just going to absolutely be murdering folks. I'm ready, man. Like this is what AEW needed. Like one of their biggest stars. The company was built around this guy at one point, and he has been severely missed this year. And coming back now, teaming with Ospreay, who was one of his like biggest adversaries, is like classic wrestling. Like, oh shit, wait, now you guys are going to be boys. And it wasn't just like all of a sudden they're friends, because Kenny was looking at him like, I don't know about you. But then I don't know who was on commentary, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something along those lines. So yeah, like, dude, Kenny Omega being back is definitely a big shot in the arm that we needed for AEW. And going into this year, he was really missed by me, and I can't wait to see some of the matchups that we get. But so far, so good. What do you think of his new theme song? Because I'm not
absolutely hate it.
I'm not a Final Fantasy guy, but like I don't know if this necessarily hits for me. I love Battle Cry so much.
It's for a one-off in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah,
it's cool. Coming out in your jeans with your dress shirt tucked in, walking to the ring, it was so not hyped. And I feel some people are going to go, oh, it's great, it's Final Fantasy. It being Final Fantasy doesn't mean it's good. There are great songs out there. There's great music out there. Doesn't mean it's good wrestling music. I think it sucks. I really think it's awful. And just bring back Battle Cry, because I'm not getting hyped for a Kenny Omega match with him walking out to this shit.
It's video game music with singing over it. It legit
Yeah.
is like a Final Fantasy thing. And I got it. It was cool for the Tokyo Dome. It was pretty epic in that entrance, but it didn't hit the same way when he came out for Dynamite. So I guess he's going to be using it going forward. But I love the new Titantron and all the visuals. Like it made
The
him look
flames and all that. It's cool.
yeah, it looked sick, but I do miss Battle Cry. And like even Devil's Sky, which was his New Japan theme song, which is the rip of Final Fantasy, even way superior than this one. It just doesn't feel like a wrestling theme song. So that's me nitpicking. And that's coming from someone who's like the biggest Kenny Mark. And I'm just like, I kind of miss Battle Cry. It gets me hyped. Like Battle Cry is a like wrestling theme. It's just guitars and everything. I'm also really, you know what theme is growing on me? Takeshita's. In AEW, because it's just like a Japanese metal instrumental, guitars flailing and everything, and like had that on the other day. I was going for a walk. I was like getting amped. I'm like, yeah, this is a wrestling theme. I don't know about this new Kenny theme, but yeah, if he keeps it, whatever, as long as you're on TV and you're keeping him happy and he's hitting people with V triggers, I'm happy. But it's nitpicking that I'm like, man, your Battle Cry is right there.
It's all part of it, right? Like we were talking on Best Match Ever. Like a match isn't bell to bell. It is your gear, it is your entrance music, it's all of that. And it's I should feel Kenny coming out like I'm about to see the biggest match ever, and this theme isn't doing it.
However, I am very excited that he's back, and like we said, there's all these different matchups we can go to and everything. So definitely looking forward to some of the upcoming stuff that got going, because if he's on the card, I'm always watching. So I'm very happy that he's back, because even the Brian Cage match is going to be great. So
yeah,
definitely looking forward to that. Yeah. Happy that he's healthy and happy that he's back.
We had Will Hobbs win the Casino Gauntlet in a bit of a surprise. Yeah, I love this match. I love this style of match. I think we had 8 people out in this one. I think maybe 9 if you count Jarrett, which I think is maybe the most we've had in one of these. I would like to see them one time they do this, open the show with this and just see how many people, like how far can you push it to all 21 people? Like,
no, you know what I want is I want the first person to pin the other person in like 3 minutes.
I want that as well. You know, I think both can happen. And but yeah, I think Will Hobbs, it's pretty cool to like Cino saying 11 people. Okay, well, Hobbs got his promo wrong on Saturday because he said he beat 8 other people, I think. But yeah, I think Hobbs, good choice. TV match against Moxley. Obviously, Hobbs got injured against Moxley. So you're going back to that. There's the tie-in of Moxley bringing Hobbs in. I like Hobbs. I think like you were very high on his match for Takeshita at World's End.
I
wasn't overly thrilled with the promo. I thought it was pretty basic. I hate that he said both on Collision and Dynamite, I'm going to make you my bitch. I think that's just a easy kind of open a wrestler's promo book. And how do I finish it? Oh, I'll call you a bitch. But apart from that, I was happy to see him win.
Yeah, it's a good TV thing. Like the fact he brought up like John Moxley's the reason that he was brought into AEW and everything. Like I think he's improving every time we see him, like the wrestling. Definitely. I think maybe less is more. You saying the bitch stuff. It's true. Like you just look at this guy and you're like, all right, this guy's a wrestler. This guy's scary. I don't know what he needs to really do to improve, but like he will. Like I obviously don't see him beating John Moxley. I know we need to pivot away from John Moxley as champ, but maybe not this way. I think hopefully we get a good match out of this. We should get some great hope spots out of it. But like he has definitely improved, and he's getting big reactions. Like again, you just look at this fucking guy. A highlight from that Casino match, the Gauntlet match, was Hangman. In the match, did you see Hangman? he beats down on Hobbs and then he mocks him. He's like putting his shoulders up and acting like he's all jacked and walking around like him. And then Hobbs is like, "You son of a bitch," and then attacks him. I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to this. I think it's a big spot for him. Obviously not winning the match, which then I think sets up for Cope versus Mox at Revolution, which is, I think we were fantasy booking that Edge or Cope should beat Moxley, and then right away Christian should cash in his money in the whatever bank thing that they call it, contract. What do they call it?
Yeah, I just
from this
hate.
Moxley.
Look, I like Cope. I like Christian. I like them both a lot. I think it's a bad look, though. I think if that's,
What else do you have? You're gonna continue this Mox story until after Darby's done climbing the mountain?
But that Christian isn't your only answer there, Braden. Like there's other people there. Like I just think it's a lot of the criticisms. We were saying we like the wrestling. Like there are other people I'd push. Your Swerves, your Hangmans, your Ospreys, your Darbys are the fresh, exciting people. And as much as I love Edge and Christian, I think it sounds so WWE. John Moxley dropping the title to Edge to be cashed in on Christian. Like, we don't need to see a Christian world title run. I think that devalues the title. As good as Christian is at this point in his career, I just think it's, the TNT title, great. Yeah, give that to a Christian Cage. But your AEW championship, I just think right from All In was a mistake giving him this gimmick.
Yeah, he shouldn't have won it. Yeah, because now you're like pigeonholed. Like the other option is he tries to cash in on Edge and he doesn't. Like that's something you could do, right? Like, or they announce a pay-per-view in Toronto in 2025, and you set up like a Christian does the RVD thing where it's like, hey, I'll face you for it, and like you do that. Either way, I think Edge should beat Mox for the title. Darby doesn't want to be world champ. He's busy climbing hills and mountains, so like he doesn't want the title. Then don't give it to him and give it to someone else, and let's move away from this Moxley stuff because it is your main title picture, and the main title hasn't been seen on TV in what seems like months. I think it's just a dead fish, and move away from this, like right away, like pivot as fast as we can and get a different title get the title on a different person and move forward. Like I don't even really want to see Cope versus Mox, but we need to go to that to get away from this title picture for Mox because I can't stand it anymore. It's dragging the show down. It's my least favorite part of the shows lately. And it's like everything else is far past that. It's so boring. It's dragging everything else down. And I love John Moxley, but this is not working for me. I watched Collision though. He gets a big cheer. He got a big reaction. So I'm like, oh no, they're going to be like, oh, wait a second. It's still working. It's like, no, stop. It's not.
It's this group are just boring blokes being miserable. It's not fun to watch, is it? We do need to get away from that. There's like Chris Jones in the chat is saying Fletcher at champ would be fresh and interesting. Obviously, you wouldn't need to pivot like how you're getting it from Mox to someone to Fletcher.
Not yet.
But I could see Fletcher as champ down the line. It feels fresher than this. Jamie Coe saying, I don't know if Kenny needs the belt. I see him more like religious HBK part of his career.
So the better part of HBK's career?
I think going back to Hobbs, though, as well, like it's great he's in this position, but the worry is, he lost the Takeshita match. He's going to lose this match.
Yeah.
Where does he go from here? And is it good for him to try and fail for the world title, or would it be better for him to have a run with one of the other titles? I don't know.
Yeah, I think him having a run somewhere a bit lower down would be a lot more.
His TNT title was nothing, but you can always try again.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think they need to fix the main title picture. And like, a returning Kenny Omega when all the eyes are like on him and everyone's being supportive of like, finally, like your key main star is back. I'm not, and you know how much I love him. I'm not like rushing to be like, hey, let's have him beat Mox. We've done that so much in the past. So like, it's an easy one to go back to. And I hope that's not the case. I think Kenny should be holding the title in 2025. I just don't think it will be from Mox down the line. I mean, Edge versus Kenny is a match we've never had. And Edge right day one in AEW said that he has come here. That is everyone who signs with AEW. They always reference, I want a match. I want to fight Kenny Omega. So I signed with AEW. So like, that will feed Canadian families if they do that on Canadian soil. So like I'm worried that Kenny would kill this guy, but like that is a match that we need to see. And I think Edge winning, I think Cope winning the title is the best move possible right now at Revolution. They did tease stuff with Marina Shafir. I'm wondering if we get Beth Phoenix also showing up in AEW because it was rated FTR, the three against the three members of BCC, or sorry, Death Riders, plus Marina, who was getting involved. So they're always unmatched. So I imagine we see Beth pretty soon, actually, because of that. Like Cope was about to smack her, and he's like, I'm a good guy, I can't do that. And then it ended up costing him and getting beat up. So Revolution for sure is going to be Mox versus Cope. And I wonder if Beth comes out for the save and helps him win from Marina. Right? That makes the most sense.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Could do that.
Some other stuff from Dynamite.
More from Dynamite.
Yeah, I really loved what's it? The Hurt People. We Hurt People. The Hurt People, as I call them. They are so good at making other people look like little bitches, because you have Private Party doing their very sad celebration. They've dropped the ball with them again. Like, you put the titles on them, and classic Tony Khan. Oh, you're a champion? We don't know what to do with you now. Sorry. So instead, the Hurt People come out and make them look like jobbers standing next to these two. And then now we're going towards Lashley and Shelton versus Private Party, which is probably at Revolution and will definitely be a title change, which makes complete sense there. So let's go with that. Let's have the Hurt People take the titles off the Private Party. Unfortunately for Private Party.
Yeah, completely failed booking with Private Party. You know, they have the two great matches with the Bucks. They win the title, and then they've pretty much been only wrestling on Collision and
against jobbers.
Against jobbers since then.
Nobody.
And then get completely geeked out by these guys. Yeah. I do really, looking at their entire career outside of matches with the Bucks, I can't really tell you anything interesting that Private Party has done, which is a shame, because when they're up against the Bucks, they show like glimmers of greatness. But yeah, you're against the Bucks. Like, they're one of the best tag teams in the world, or potentially of all time, you know? Yeah. But I thought, as much as I enjoyed them geeking out Ricochet the other week, this just felt like, come on, this felt Vince McMahon-esque. Right? This was just like, we're just gonna bury our tag champions, our tag division. Hurt Syndicate as champs sounds great. Like, until you're if you don't want to put Bobby in a singles championship feud or run right now, I think the tag division's a great idea, especially how good Shelton's been. I think having these two seem as equals rather than Bobby being the leader and Shelton being a bit of a minion. Shelton's been excellent in AEW so far. So I'm kind of about that. And about the potential matches you could be doing with the Hurt Syndicate as champions. Whether Swerve ends up getting a partner to, like, when's Keith Lee going to come back? Because Swerve still has unresolved issues with the Hurt Syndicate. Could you reform Swerve in Our Glory maybe down the line? I don't know if Keith Lee's ever going to wrestle again. I don't know what his status is, but I don't know. That just comes to mind as a cool program to go against Hurt Syndicate. When the Bucks are eventually back and as baby faces, that would be cool. But unfortunately, this whole Private Party thing has not worked out, but I don't really think they gave it much of a chance.
No, I blame how they've been booked. Like, they proved, hey, we're pretty good wrestlers, and they've had good wrestling matches. They still do, but the presentation is classic AEW. Oh, you're the champion now? All right, how about you have you're the world champion? Hey, what if you have a tag match? Oh, you're the tag champions? All right, we're gonna book you against jobbers on Collision where nobody sees and nobody watches or cares about you beating these teams that don't matter. Oh, you're the TNT champion? We're going to put you in the tournament and the battle royals for the world title, meaning that title you hold means nothing. It's just like, once you win or finish your story, it doesn't matter. It's like it drops down again. So it's weird. I see Chris Jones in the chat bringing up a point I was just about to bring up. Does anyone know if MVP is going to don the tights again, or is he just a mouthpiece? He is advertised for the match this Wednesday. So either he does wrestle or we figure out who is also part of the Hurt Syndicate, because the graphic is Private Party and Mark Briscoe, for reasons, taking on the Hurt Syndicate, meaning Lashley, Shelton, and MVP in this graphic. So I am wondering what happens there.
Yeah, I wonder if we get a third member introduced there.
Ricochet?
I don't know.
He's proved himself to be nasty. So
I mean, that would bring Swerve back to feuding with the Hurt Syndicate as well. I guess.
Yeah. Like they said, you need to find. You're not there yet. You need to find an edge because they fucking bitched him out. So that would be something. But I would like to see MVP wrestle again. That is pretty interesting. I used to fucking love MVP back in the day. In fact, bring back his old entrance. Bring back that tunnel he used to come out through. That shit was lit. I didn't get it. Why he had this inflatable bouncy castle as his entrance, but fuck it, bring it back.
Because he's the MVP.
I'm down. I love this Hurt People stuff thus far, and they should win the titles really soon. And it's a shame for Private Party. They should have been booked like way better, way stronger. What a sad celebration. They're always backstage drinking out of like champagne glasses with nobody around. Like it just looks so fake and so stupid.
The whole angle was awful as well. Just like we're coming for your tag titles, and it all goes silent and awkward. It was just I didn't like it.
It made them look like kids, like geeks, compared to like the real wrestlers have arrived. The real champs are taking these titles. So unfortunately for them, I think that's the end of their push, because they could have been pushed better. You could have had them face FTR and have them win and show like, hey, we are an actual viable team. And I just didn't think they've nailed that. And it's a reoccurring thing with champions, and then also people who lose their titles. It's like right away you're just forgotten about, and your story is over essentially. And it's kind of odd. Whereas the opposite happened with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett says, "I'm going to win a world title in 2025." I'm like, that's odd, because you're not the one booking it, so I don't know how you're going to be champion. He says he's like a 12-time world champion. Having a lot of people watching at home be like, what the fuck? Jeff Jarrett was a 12-time champion? Yeah, he was the booker. He was the booker of his own company. You're goddamn right he was champion 12 times. I loved him coming out for his match, and then he doesn't make it in time because the casino, right? It was over before he could wrestle. So he was like, that was my shot. And then in a weird swerve, MJF comes out to interrupt him and basically says, hey, if you win the title, give me a shot, which is like, what? Where is this all going? Which then made me go, maybe I kind of like it. So I'm going to let that sizzle a little bit before I don't like it. Cause I didn't see that coming. And MJF was the only one in the last while, I think last week, in a promo, basically like, hey, I'm coming for the title, Dictator John, and like bringing it all back around, making you remember, oh yeah, this guy is like a key player here and not just thrown to the side like another forgotten toy. So I'm willing to see where this goes with Jeff Jarrett and MJF. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm into it. I don't see the Jeff Jarrett match. I think we said this last week. I don't see it being a pay-per-view match, but I think you could have a absolute bloodbath on TV and some great hope spots. I do like the MJF involvement. I like him getting away from Cole. Little weird with Mox being a heel and MJF back in his heel role, but yeah, this is the most interesting thing MJF's done for a while for me, and I'm for it. I'm for, I'm not for Christian winning the world title, but I'm up for a little bit of a retirement run for Jarrett and a title chase. I think it's interesting.
Another thing I've been finding pretty entertaining is the Toni Storm. What do you even call this? Like she's had what is like she can't remember. What is it? Like
amnesia.
Amnesia. That's the right word I was looking for. Like she comes in. The videos they've been promoting on social media have been so funny. Her going to Hammerstein, meeting the fans, going to catering, like all this stuff. I've really, really been enjoying it. Like it's been pretty funny. And like, once again, like redefining herself as like, she created an iconic character and then now is like even going further with it. It's pretty genius. I gotta give her the flat. Like it's fucking funny. So that match was pretty fun too, actually.
Yeah, I think she's great. I think this character is just working. I expect her to win the Battle Royal next week, which obviously means she'll challenge Mariah May in Australia, which makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
But also this character is going to work way better on the interview circuit if they choose to promote this show in Australia.
Yeah.
But think if Tony's going round on morning TV playing this rookie who is chasing for the title in her hometown, that works so much better from an interview point of view than the Timeless character. And I think you're going to have a lot of people watching this just thinking she's this young Australian rookie wrestler, and that's fine as long as it sells the pay-per-view where you go, I want to see our girl win the title. I think it's quite fun. She's great. I think she's proved a lot of doubters wrong. Like, I didn't think she had a great WWE run. I think her wrestling's improved in AEW, but it is those extra things that we talk about, that being a complete wrestler. It's everything. It's knowing your character. What is your character? What are your motivations? And how can you relay them effectively in a promo? And she is 100% a highlight of AEW.
Yeah, completely. Like, she's someone who walked away from WWE. Like, famously, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. You're bitching me out, whatever. And completely has, at least it looks like she has complete freedom of whatever. And it's totally working. Like, the wrestling almost comes secondary in wrestling, and she managed to make something that stands out completely. Like, I watch these videos. I don't watch a lot of the clips of Collision or whatever, but when I see that they put the new stuff out with her and her talking to people, it almost made me, you said, like, if people were to tune in and never watch, I was thinking of that while watching Dynamite. Like, imagine you have some friends over and you're watching Dynamite and they don't know what this is. They just believe that she is this, like, rookie. And it's the commentary who are, like, kind of throwing in, like, the questions, like, what the fuck is going on with her?
And Renee's very good at that kind of thing. Like, in an interview, just being like, she's not over the top, but it's always this look like, what is going on?
Yeah. So very, very good. Allowing her to, like, just be completely herself and be so funny with doing it. I also love Mariah May and Harley Cameron. The way they promoted the match for Collision, you would have thought Collision did 1 million viewers, but the way that their low tops and no, Harley, stop it. You're not having a match for the title. And she's like, well, and then they had a match on Saturday. But yeah, Harley's been someone who's like, man, she's a singer, guitar player, wrestler, model, ventriloquist. Like, I don't know what the fuck else she does.
She's fantastic. Chris Jones in the chat saying the big push of Harley Cameron has begun. New music and character. Maybe she can get a TBS title shot in Australia. I agree. Like, there was no Outcasts, like, logos or anything on her stuff, so that seems to be done. And I think she's improved a lot in the ring as well. I think she's completely acceptable in ring, and she is one of few people in the women's division over, I'd say, both companies who, again, knows her character and is highly entertaining. I actually think, Harley Cameron versus Mercedes sounds great for Australia. Like, absolutely. And I think Harley should start getting more time, because I think she earns it. She's earned it. She feels a bit like the Chelsea Green of AEW, where constantly improving, constantly making us laugh as fans, and we want to see her being rewarded for it. And yes, Jamie, more hot girl graps.
Hot girl graps. Love it. Yeah. It did make me want to tune into some of the Collision. I did kind of cherry pick some stuff. I heard that one of the worst matches of the year, now I know it's January, Chris Jericho versus Dax the Axe was a bit of a stinker. A few people online in our chats and stuff told me. And then I tuned in. I was like, it's bad, but I don't know if it's, like, up there as, top tier level it's still wrestle crap because it's Jericho in 2025 still wrestling, but it didn't necessarily scream like
the botched finish didn't help, did it?
Like, that was probably the bad part of it.
You saw Jericho try to take out, like, inadvertently, quote unquote, take out the ref, and then it looked like Dax goes for a head, like a diving headbutt off the top, and Jericho's meant to move the belt to knock him out, but didn't. So then the ref's getting up ready to count the pin, and Dax goes over to the ref to, like, push him into the ropes and clearly says, we haven't done the bit yet. So then Jericho just whacks him with the belt. Not very good.
Not good. I watched Garcia versus Shibata. That was pretty fun. It could have been a whole lot better and like bigger pay-per-view built match, but still it was a fun little match. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, Hangman cutting a promo on Christopher Daniels, basically saying, I'm going to fight you in a Texas death match next week on Collision. So I'll definitely have to check that out. Love me some Fallen Angel.
Kind of says like, he almost said he was like emasculated by Swerve coming to his house, and he's always tried to keep his privacy and all that, and that obliterated it. And it's made him a changed man, and CD getting in his way. And he's like, hey, I like you, CD, but like, fuck you. It's time to die. And
love it.
Daniels coming back later in the show being like, hey, I wasn't doing this as an EVP. I was looking out for you as a friend. I'm worried about you, but how dare you say, I wonder if there was a little thing that Hangman said, and I wonder if he got it from one of the people who is very critical about him, where he says, what have you done in the business? And and then Daniel was being like, hey, what do you mean, what have I done? I'm a world champion. I've started multiple companies. I've done this, I've done that. Christopher Daniels, John Pollock's least favorite character of 2024. And I have to agree with him. But for a TV match, I'm kind of okay with the Christopher Daniels Hangman thing. I think the issue is we've got the Jarrett thing, and we've got Cope, Christian, Mox. Like it feels a lot of it all at the same time of these older guys. But I'm sure the match would be pretty fun. Hangman rarely misses on these Texas death matches.
I'm scared for Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels is going to get murdered on Collision. So this is taping on Thursday, but it's airing on Collision on Saturday. The Maximum Carnage Collision. I grew up watching a lot of TNA, and Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels. I'm telling you, there's a lot of gems and gold from his TNA days, his X Division days, AJ Styles feud, tag team, etc. Like I've always joked about, we got to do a best match ever, Christopher Daniels, when the time comes, because he has had some great stuff in the past. But think like this last year of him being the voice or whatever has been really bad. But the internet has dug up the promo that they referenced here, because Hangman at 18 years old in some indie fed cutting a promo on Daniels has resurfaced, and it's pretty crazy. So they do have history. They are friends clearly, and everything. So Texas death on a Collision. I will be watching because this could be the burial of the fallen angel. So I'm interested for sure. Anything else from Dynamite or AEW, I should say, like whether it was Collision going towards next week, the Maximum Carnage we were talking about. We got some stuff lined up. I'm looking forward to this week.
Some big things coming up. I'm still not. I thought this was a good Dynamite and Collision, but I'm still not fully into it right now. But we'll see how things pick up. Obviously I don't expect any title changes this week, but I imagine this week they really have to start building that Australia show, which they finally started to mention a bit more, which is it's a month away. So 4 weeks to build for that, whatever it's going to be at this point.
Yeah, and anyone out there listening, if you're in Australia, let us know if you're going. We'd love some live feedback or reports from that. Something else involving AEW, maybe not TV, was some pictures circulating, some photos of Eddie Kingston back in the gym, shooting in the gym with Cesar Bononi, training with a big-ass beard. So Eddie Kingston coming soon. I mean, he's still injured and still a long ways away from coming back. But what a shame, because Death Riders, that would have been the perfect guy to take the title from Jon Moxley right now if he were to be here, because he's just a shoe-in. Like the history, the mouth on Kingston, he's definitely been missed as a homegrown talent, dare I say.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that return is sooner than we think. But all the powers and love to Eddie Kingston back in the gym. So looking forward to that. Some other stuff, some wrestling I watched today. New Japan Pro Wrestling Battle in the Valley. Is that what it was called?
It was, yeah.
They did a show last night in San Jose, California, and it had some AEW talent on it. However, I'm sure there was a lot of eyes on Gabe Kidd since his match with Kenny Omega just like a week or so ago. And here he is going 30 minutes with Ishii in a 30-minute time limit. And then they go, hey, you guys couldn't pin each other in 30 minutes. How about you do a rematch where it's an Iron Man 30-minute match?
Nice.
Oh, okay.
And
Like,
when's that
match
going to be?
sounds great. I think August. That is such a long
Wow,
time.
August. What the fuck?
I could be wrong. Am I crazy? I thought they said it was in August, and I was like, what? So Gabe Kidd versus Ishii was pretty good last night. There was a lot of chopping each other, a lot of taking each other down, but great match. 30-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I actually think you messaged me yesterday and you were like, oh my God, there's more wrestling. There's a New Japan show on. But you know what? I think it being so close to Wrestle Kingdom, it did have my interest because I've kind of, dipped my toe back in the water. Gabe Kidd is someone who just has caught fire, and I was interested in seeing that. And I looked up and down the card and say, I've got some time. I'm going to check out some of this. Yeah.
It's April. Sorry. It's April, not August.
That makes more sense. Still feels a way away, to essentially not have this title defended until then. I enjoyed this match. It did tread a little bit too for me in that style that I've kind of got bored in, which is like, let's just take turns hitting each other. I feel like it was cool 5 years ago, and I'm kind of over that. And I wanted to see, more of an Ishii match we saw with Takeshita, where I think he broke his mold a little bit in that. But yeah, the sort of aura surrounding Gabe Kidd really seems to be growing. And it was a fun match to watch. So did you check out much else from the show?
Yeah. I managed to watch that. And then I think New Japan, they should ride the momentum, right? Like if a lot of people are talking about this Kenny match with Gabe Kidd, then like you should be using Gabe Kidd properly, because he could be some sort of a white knight like thing that could help, bring interest and bring eyes and money to the promotion. So I thought this was a good use of him. I think a lot of people tuned in just to see like, hey, is this guy actually good? And I thought it was pretty good. I think doing the 30-minute draw was like a choice, because they do tease that they will rematch it in Chicago. So then it brings some attention to that show. So I thought it was pretty fun. I think it could have gotten to a next level or something. So perhaps they do go a bit crazier in that rematch at Windy City Riot. Another match I checked out was Takeshita versus Kushida. Takeshita being my A1 star to watch. I always got to check out what he does. And this was pretty good. I think Kushida has kind of dropped down a bit. I'm not really sure what happened, like him going to WWE, NXT, Jacket Time, and then going to wherever else he's going.
Me,
he just feels unimportant.
He still loves Back to the Future. And it's like, yeah, it's a great film, but this has been your gimmick for ever.
He's kind of gone away from it though, hasn't he? He kind of goes away from it. Wrestle Kingdom,
I don't know. He comes out and he just looks same old Kushida to me, and it's
he hasn't done anything that's like considering when his original run in New Japan, like you could have seen a lot with this guy. You could have seen, and maybe leaving affected that, and going back always got to suck and tail between your legs and this and that. But at least he tried it. I'm sure that's a thing in his life that like, hey, I did go and try it in WWE, but something is missing. He's not the Kushida of old. So this was still a fun match, but it didn't necessarily get to any levels that we know that these two could go to. Something notable coming off of this, though, is Takeshita cutting a promo after the match and calls out Tanahashi and says, your last U.S. match will be against me. So Windy City Riot, Takeshita versus Tanahashi 1-on-1. And this has my interest. I know like Tanahashi, obviously in is it twilight of his career, I guess, like winding down and everything this year, but they have some history. I know that those two fought each other when Takeshita was like still a teenager at some point. So there's a lot you can play on with Takeshita signing this deal with New Japan. They should use him like a star because they need him, I think, right now. And if I was New Japan, Takeshita will be IWGP champion in 2025. That's how I would book, because your big matchup by the end of this year should be Gabe Kidd and Takeshita. Maybe, I don't know. Like that could be something that would be pretty big. But that was pretty cool seeing Takeshita call out Tanahashi. That match is now made official. And then what else did I watch? I watched Hechicero versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah,
I loved
that
match.
Yeah, I loved that match. Just Hechicero being another Zack Sabre Jr. Basically, the way he can just get in submissions, and some of the we just rewatched Danielson versus Zack for our best match ever review, and this had a similar kind of feel, just both being, jazz musicians when it comes to submission wrestling, and some of the counters, how they were able to get from one submission counted into another, like just didn't make any sense to me, but I thoroughly enjoyed this match.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I feel like I've always wanted, they need to push Zack Sabre Jr., and then finally Zack Sabre Jr. is champion, and I'm like, yeah, he's fine. Like the match was good and technical. I just feel like there's something else missing from like this main event level of
I
Zack
don't
Sabre
think
Jr.
his style is a main event style match. It's great, like exhibition, middle of the show, steals the show, but
yeah,
it lacks the like dramaticness you have in, because that's not his style. His style is this, and this is what he does best, and I love watching it. But it doesn't necessarily have those, big striking moments and the crescendos and that kind of thing that most main events have these days. But this was my favorite match on the show of the matches I watched. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Yeah,
it was still really fun. I feel, I don't know, something's like not necessarily clicking. I thought it was a fun show. Nothing on it necessarily blew me away or like must watch, but I threw it on today and it was pretty fun. And then Sumi Sakai retired as well.
Yeah,
which she never, I think, got to like maybe to some North American audiences, but like we've watched her wrestle in so many different companies and so many different things over the years. So gotta love, and I saw a lot of wrestlers sending and posting love for Sumi Sakai this weekend.
Yeah, so retiring the way anyone would want to, and that's by teaming with House of Torture.
Yeah, great.
I also caught the El Phantasmo Jeff Cobb match, which was I was really enjoying, and then it has a double count out draw, which considering you've already booked a time limit draw on the show, kind of was a little odd. And then Taiji Ishimori and El Desperado in the main event for the junior heavyweight title, which was fine. We've seen these two against each other quite a bit. I didn't think this was anywhere near their like best stuff.
And then what's the story with Evil saying he's leaving? He's done with New Japan. I hope that's not true. I don't want to see this guy anywhere else.
Was he meant to shave his head? Has he shaved his head yet?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought he was meant to lose his hair.
Yeah. Evil may be teasing that he's done with New Japan. I cannot see him going to WWE. I know, is he not with Io Sky? So like maybe going to WWE where your partner is cool, but like I hope that's not a real thing. I hope that he's actually staying with New Japan, because I don't want to see him on WWE. I don't want to see him on AEW. I've given him way too many chances. I can't stand
it. I can't see WWE employing him, to be honest.
He's big, he's cool, good look, but like, fuck, you just suck, dude. Like, even I'll give him the flowers of New Japan Wrestle Kingdom Dynasty last week. He had a great entrance, maybe the best entrance of that whole show. Some guy playing the spooky organ, him coming out. I was like, yes, oh yeah, it's Evil. He fucking sucks. Anything he does won't be good. So I hope I don't necessarily say stay in New Japan. Maybe just leave. Go wrestle somewhere else that I don't watch.
Go to Big Japan or whatever. I don't know. Other New Japan news. Chris Charlton being suspended for his commentary on Wrestle Kingdom. Sorry, on Wrestle Dynasty, rather.
Yes. You know what? When I was watching that, I thought they were doing an angle. Like, I thought this was purposely done for if Forbidden Door was a little bit closer, you would have just thought this was done on purpose because of like we want a New Japan versus AEW sort of storyline, right? But then it comes out that no, it was just him kind of riffing, if you will. And like, I don't have issue with what he said, because what he actually said wasn't that bad, but it does sound like it was New Japan who were upset with him saying this, not so much AEW or Tony Khan, because they don't want to jeopardize, promoting and all that kind of stuff. So I can
there have been some reports that Tony Khan, I think 3 different sources reporting that Tony Khan did put pressure on New Japan. Like, it was ultimately a New Japan decision, right. But I think the stories, the rumors, whatever, are that Tony Khan wasn't happy and did make comments. Yeah,
the one line about the money mark thing, definitely shitting on the Continental Classic. I can see people being like, oh, they shouldn't. I think Chris Charlton has improved a whole lot since we were watching him the first few times he was doing commentary. Like, he has improved. He's getting better and better. He doesn't come across like the heel commentator. So I thought it was a bit too far maybe with the money mark stuff. I think of if you were in a position where you're doing work with someone and you're promoting their shows and they go on their show and shit on you, you would probably be mad in any profession.
It was interesting though, because it was on the match, which the story is the guy defending New Japan from this guy who was the guy and left. So I think it did make sense for the story. I found it a little overbearing at times. It felt, at times where I'm thinking Jerry Lawler a lot of the time. That we reviewed it relatively recently, that Rock versus Austin WrestleMania 19 match, where JR clearly knows it's Austin's last match and he's trying to give it that gravitas. And throughout the whole match, Jerry Lawler's going on about WrestleMania Hollywood. Oh, it's WrestleMania Hollywood with The Rock and he's a movie star. And at one point, JR just goes like, essentially, shut the fuck up. Like, this is bigger than what you're doing. And it felt a bit like that at times, where it was, okay, you've got the point. There's this animosity between the two, but let them tell the story. And I think something he is bad at is talking over big moments. It's Kenny's making his return entrance. You don't need commentary for that. Let's hear the new song. Let's have him soak in that moment coming back. Instead, he's coming out, this is the guy that won the G1 and this, and his music is this. And it's like, shut up. We don't say that after. Yeah. You can be like, oh, and that music was this, and Kenny did this. But I think he's really bad at that kind of thing. And clearly people think he overstepped the line. Jamie in the chat, he got suspended for doing his job. I do see that side as well, but that it might not be the directive. He might not be directed.
This isn't your show. This isn't your show to do that. Like this, your job is to do what you're told, essentially. And maybe he stepped over some lines. Watching it with his commentary, it did make me go like, oh, is he like, are they doing this on purpose? And then the money mark line definitely was like, okay, like it's not things other people don't say all the time, but this is a show they were promoting. There is money involved. Their name is on it, and doing that shows you like, hey, if you do business with us, we're going to shit on you while doing business is not okay. I just think I see it from both sides, because I do think he has improved, but you're totally right. Like there's a lot of him talking when maybe he shouldn't be, or saying certain things when he shouldn't be, and certain calls just don't sound maybe the way they should. But it's also in English. This is a secondary track. Like their main focus is obviously Japanese, but you're getting a lot of these fans tuning in who do listen to the English thing. There is a lot of AEW talent on this show, which brings in North American audiences and English speaking viewers and all sorts. So I see it from both sides, but I do think that you did say those things. So if I were to have done a show with you, Davie, if me and you were going in on a co-promoted event, not wrestling, but I don't know, a concert or something, and you, knowing that we're in this together, go out of your way to say something to the audience that shits on me, I'd probably be upset. So I see it from that side 100%. I am in the camp that maybe he shouldn't have been suspended for this long, but at the same time, like you do need to let him know, and others know, that when there's money involved, maybe shut the fuck up.
Now, what's interesting is Tony Schiavone wasn't on Dynamite. He was on Collision. Now, they said on Dynamite that he's on assignment, whatever that is. But he kind of did get caught up in the mix because he tweeted and deleted, hey, at ReasonJP, which is Chris Charlton's account, speaking for all of us in AEW, GFY. And speaking for all of us who have been around you, take a shower once in a while. Now,
is this real? Is this a real tweet?
This is real. Yeah. So
he deleted it.
He deleted it. I wonder if him not being on Dynamite has something to do with that as well. Obviously, we did hear him on Saturday's Collision. But yeah, we're building for
Tony Schiavone
versus Tony Schiavone at Forbidden Door in London.
Who do you got money on? Tony's older.
Tony's got the weight. Tony's got the experience.
Tony's got the earring.
Tony's got the earring.
He's taking his earrings out like, yo, bitch, hold my earring. This guy up.
Yeah, I see Schiavone winning that.
Schiavone's old, but I still think he would kick that dude's ass. I'm sorry. That's
what Chris
crazy.
Charlton would do, though, is as he's being pinned, he'd talk through the moment.
Yeah. The match is over. Oh my God.
Yes.
We're sounding like we're such assholes, but like I do think he's really improved, but it did make my eyebrow raise a few times watching that show. So hey, clearly other people thought the same thing.
Yeah.
He was suspended, but I wasn't sure if that Schiavone tweet delete was legit or not. And
yeah, it's legit.
Anytime you call someone stinky, gets a laugh out of me because fucking wrestling, the world of wrestling, some people are goddamn stinky. So yeah, we got to learn how to shower, people, whether or not that's allegedly real or true or anything, but like shower. Yeah.
Anyway. Anything else you want to talk about before we call it?
Yeah, I know we've gone kind of long today, but one final thing I saw making the rounds. Jeff Hardy did an interview, and I apologize, I don't remember where it was from, but he said, and this quote got put everywhere this week, that at one point in his career, that while he was in his 20s, if he didn't do the things he did, and if he didn't go down the paths he did, referring to drugs and alcohol and everything, that at one point he would have been bigger than John Cena in the world of wrestling. And it got a lot of people talking about his comments about that. It's such a funny thing to say, hey, if I didn't go down the path of DUIs and getting caught and busted for drugs over and over and over again, I would have been a really big star. That sounds like any actor in any bands or singer, like, oh yeah, we would have been a lot more popular if I didn't have like those vices. And I know that's like maybe splits the room a little bit. At one point, Jeff Hardy was bigger than John Cena. He was selling more than John Cena. There was a time when that was a thing. However, the chips landed that he could not handle that. And given opportunity after opportunity of breaking fans' hearts multiple times, that like, hey, maybe you would have been, man, but it didn't work out that way, and you're the one to blame. Is my
I see where he's coming from. He'd have been a bigger deal. I personally never saw the sustainability in Jeff Hardy to be a top guy, and that's vices aside. Like, I see him as that, in that Kevin Owens mold where you can main event a show, you can go for the title, you can win the title once in a while, you can go back down to IC title run, have some mid-card feuds. But I think your top guy needs to be versatile enough to be able to feud with everyone and carry those feuds on the mic. And I think that's why John Cena lasted so long. I think that's why Cody is great in the role right now. I don't necessarily see a Jeff Hardy being strong enough in those areas to be the 1A.
I don't think I'd ever see him. Like, again, there was a time he was selling more merch, he was more popular, but I just don't think like overall he would have, maybe he wouldn't have gone to Hollywood and make a wish and all these things. Like, John Cena is a household name inside of wrestling and outside of wrestling, no matter what. Like, people know who this guy is. I do think at one point he was pretty big, but like you're the one who was in your way. You're the person who was in your way because I grew up in the 90s being a huge Hardy Boys fan. Hardy Boys is probably a big reason of why I fucking love this shit so much. And the first time he left was pretty upsetting. The second time he got in trouble, the third, the fourth, the fifth, up till this year, he's still saying, oh, like AEW didn't give us a chance. Yes, they did, actually. They gave you lots of chances. And you know who fucked that up? You did. So, like, there was a big issue with him maybe not seeing what the problem is. And this is coming out at the tail end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. Like, dude has proved time and time again he can't be trusted to give the ball and run with it because you can't. You'll go and sell the ball and go buy another different type of ball. So, like, an 8-ball. So, like, I love Jeff Hardy and I always will, but I'll always never forget that you treated yourself, therefore treated your fans pretty poorly. And, you'll still be a big name in wrestling and people see that they're doing the indie runs and the Hardy Boys. It's gaining a lot of traction. It's working for TNA because they're like, oh, TNA is giving us a chance. We won't break this trust. It's like, man, you shouldn't have broke the trust in the last company and the company before that and the company before that. So yeah. I it's getting a lot of people talking.
It's like, I'm sorry if you're not willing to do it in WWE or AEW, but yeah, your TNA is the place you're going to fix your act. I don't believe you. Yeah. Sino in the chat saying the fact that he made those choices alone proves he could never be as big as John Cena, who didn't make those same choices. And Chris Jones saying, if I was really good at tennis, I'd have won Wimbledon, Jeff.
Yeah, there you go. Love you, Jeff Hardy, but man, come on. Anyways, that's it. That's all the wrestling chat for today. If you liked what you hear, you can follow us, Poisonrana, YouTube, any podcast app, and patreon.com/Poisonrana. $5 to become a friend. You'll get access to Best Match Ever, Part 2, where we definitely nerd out about the year that was 2024 in the world of wrestling. Plus, our Champ is Here, episode 5, coming up this week with John Cena and Beat Detroit, talking about the 5th title reign of John Cena, not the 5th title reign of Jeff Hardy. We will also be doing a What's Next, and plus you get all those shows and all the other shows that we have in that back catalog. Tons of different reviews, tons of wrestling, movie reviews, so much more, and it's only $5, which equals less than pennies per podcast at your fingertips and your ears. But appreciate everyone out there, including some of you in the chat today, like our Chris's, our Cinos, our Jamies, etc. I see you. Thank you so much. I know people were busy watching football and everything, but you chose to be here with us, and we appreciate you. And everyone out there listening, we can't do it without you guys, and we love you, and we appreciate you.
We do indeed. Well, we'll chat to you this Tuesday on the Post Wrestling Network for a new episode of Up Next. And as Braden said, sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/Poisonrana for all of our other shows. It is a double show week this week.
Yeah, and chop-tees.com/Poisonrana for all the merch that we got up there. We got some hats, some toques. It's getting winter time. I know I'm Canadian. I call it a toque. You can call it a scully or whatever, a hat, if you will, but a nice warm toque for your head during these cold months. chop-tees.com/Poisonrana for everything that we got up there, and it helps support us. So and if you do buy something, please send in a photo. We'd love to see you rocking the lovely Lucha Frog of Doom. Yeah, I'm gonna go drink some real American beer and enjoy the rest of my Sunday. So take care, goodbye, and be safe.
Ahoy!
Poisonrana.